My name is Shen Xingyan. Today was the day of the awakening ceremony at base No. 6. I stood in the long line with Chu Wei, the sweet girl from my school. She asked if I was nervous. I said I was fine, but my throat felt tight and my hands were shaking. I couldn't really hide it from her. The sun was hot, but none of us cared. This was the day that could change everything. For me, it had to. My parents died 8 years ago in the Great Disaster. Since then, I've taken care of my little sister by myself. I'm from the North District, not the rich Central District where most of the lucky kids live. If I awakened a strong profession today, maybe I could finally give my sister a better life. The commander of our base appeared in the air above the plaza. He told us the history we all know, how Blue Star changed over 100 years ago, how strange monsters came and almost wiped us out, and how the light screens appeared to give humans professions and powers. He told us to never give up, no matter what we awakened. Then the screen turned red, and the line started moving. When my turn came, my feet felt stiff. The crowd pushed me forward into the light. I felt something sprout inside my mind, like a tiny seed. I knew this was my awakening. My teachers had told us to stay calm and feel the change carefully. But before I could even try, the light threw me right back out. My heart dropped. I knew what that meant. Quick ejection usually means no combat profession. I pressed my star source card to my forehead with shaking hands and looked at my information. My profession was farmer. My skill made crops grow a little faster. My talent let me summon 1 weak skeleton with all stats at 1, and I could only use it once a day. Every one of my stats was just 10, the basic number. A farmer. In a world full of monsters, I awakened as a farmer. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to tell Chu Wei. I didn't know how I was going to protect my sister now. I looked at my status panel again, hoping maybe I read it wrong. But no. Every physical number was at the school's top level, just like I expected from all my hard training. That part didn't surprise me. What broke me was the word on the profession line. Farmer. Why this one? Even a blacksmith would have been better. A blacksmith's skills make the body stronger, good enough to fight monsters. But a farmer? My skill only helps crops grow faster. It does nothing for me in a fight. At best, I won't starve. And my talent was even stranger. Summon a skeleton with all stats at level 1, once a day. I had never even heard of a farmer with a summoning talent. Most farmers get skills for faster planting or more stamina. But a skeleton that weak can't fight anything. What am I supposed to do with it? The sun was still burning hot, but I felt cold all over. All the tension from the past few days drained out of me, and suddenly I could barely walk. I dragged myself to the registration officer and told him my profession. He had probably heard it 1,000 times today. He didn't say much, but I saw the pity in his eyes. That look hurt more than words. He just pointed me to the farmer waiting area. Before I got there, I heard Chu Wei's happy voice calling me. She awakened as a fire mage, an explosive one. Everyone turned to look at her in envy. I felt truly glad for her. But standing next to her, with my farmer card in my hand, I couldn't help feeling small. She saw my face, and her smile disappeared right away. She came over quietly and just stood beside me, not sure what to say. I could tell she was trying not to show how excited she was, because she didn't want to hurt me. I forced a smile and told her not to worry. I said even as a farmer, I wouldn't starve, and when my crops grew, I'd share some with her. Her eyes turned red. She knew what I had lost. All I ever wanted was to get stronger, protect my little sister, and one day take revenge on the monsters that killed our parents. Now that wish felt so far away. I patted her head gently. What's done is done. Being sad won't change anything. We still have to keep going. I was saying it to her, but really, I was saying it to myself. She nodded quietly. We looked at each other one last time, then walked to our different areas. When I stepped into the farmer section, the heavy mood hit me right away. Everyone here looked as lost as I felt. In the distance, the combat classes were laughing and celebrating. I couldn't join them, but I had to keep living. Later, I remembered what the teachers told us about Star Source. The black card in my hand wasn't just an ID. If I pressed it to my forehead, my mind could enter another world, the world of Star Source. It worked like a game. I could do tasks and fight to level up my profession, earn items, and trade them for star coins. And star coins were real money here. They worked inside the Star Source world and outside in the real base too. With enough of them, a person could buy almost anything. People even said you could bring items from that world into reality. I stared at my card. Maybe my profession was weak. Maybe my talent looked useless, but the Star Source world was still open to me, same as everyone else. If hard work could change fate, then I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. Officer number 6 gave us one last speech before he left. He told us we were adults now, independent people. He said no matter how different our results were from what we dreamed of, fate had already chosen our path, and we had to accept it and work hard. He said we were the hope of our people, and one day, through all our effort, humans would walk freely outside the base again. His words stirred something inside me. Even as a farmer, I started thinking about how to use what I had to build a better life for me and my little sister. Before anyone could cheer, the officer suddenly vanished. I'd heard the disasters at the borders were getting worse, and people like him couldn't rest for even a moment. The fact that he came to our ceremony at all was already a big deal. The crowd left in an orderly way, group by group. Chu Wei and I went back to our school section and waited. At school, the split was easy to see. The kids with combat professions were loud and excited. The ones with civilian jobs were quiet. When we showed up, everyone stared. Chu Wei and I had always been the top 2 students, so they were curious. Our teacher, Mr. Li, came over to ask. I could tell from his face he already guessed something had gone wrong. He'd been teaching for years and could read us easily. The question he wanted to ask stayed stuck in his throat, and his eyes showed a bit of regret. Then Song Jie opened his mouth. He had always hated that I ranked higher than him. Today he got lucky and awakened as a warrior. It wasn't the mage he wanted, but still a good class, and it was enough to make him proud. Hey, Shen Xingyan, from your face, did you awaken as a blacksmith? Well, with your strength, that job suits you perfectly, he said with a smirk. Before I could answer, Chu Wei snapped. She almost rushed at him. I had to hold her back. She was already angry about my farmer class, and Song Jie's mocking pushed her over the edge. Then Song Jie grinned and teased. Why are you so nervous, Shen Xingyan? Don't tell me you two have something going on. Chu Wei's face turned red. She pulled harder against my arm, trying to get loose. I stayed calm. I looked at Song Jie and said quietly, no matter what job I awakened, I can still beat you. If you don't believe me, try. And I meant it. Right after awakening, the difference between us wasn't that big. Strength mostly came from our body condition from before, and I had trained hard. All my stats were at the top. Even as a farmer, against a new warrior like him, I could win, even if he used his skill. Mr. Li finally cut in, his voice cold. He warned Song Jie that if he kept stirring trouble, he'd lose his spot in the graduation trial next month. That shut Song Jie up instantly. He glared at me, but he didn't dare say another word. That trial was too valuable to lose. It was a chance to see the real world outside the base walls, safely, protected by strong fighters. If we were lucky, we might even find rare items that could boost our bodies. Even a proud new warrior like Song Jie couldn't risk missing it. He swallowed his anger and stayed quiet. And I stood there thinking, a trial outside the base. Maybe that was my chance too. Farmer or not, I was going. Song Jie had finally shut up, and Teacher Li started going through the procedure, asking about our awakening results. I was ready to say, farmer, out loud. I had already accepted it. I was prepared. But before I could speak, Chu Wei jumped in first. Teacher Li, I awakened as a fire mage. All my stats are full except strength and endurance, she said loudly. Then she looked right at Song Jie, made a little fist, and waved it at him with a smirk. I almost laughed. She was sending him a clear message. Mages fight from far away, and a fire mage against a new warrior? Song Jie would have no chance. I saw his face change right away. His proud look disappeared, and he started regretting every word he'd said earlier. Quietly, he stepped back into the crowd. The other students stared at Chu Wei with envy. Then they looked at their own cards and forced small smiles. Teacher Li looked pleased. He asked her about her talent. She said it was fire mastery, 20% more power for fire spells. A perfect match for her class. He wrote it down happily. Then Chu Wei leaned close to him and whispered something. I couldn't hear it, but I saw Teacher Li glance at me with a small frown. He looked like he understood. He thought for a moment, sighed, then gave her a small nod. I realized what she had done. She asked him to record my profession privately, not in front of everyone. She didn't want me to be embarrassed. She turned and winked at me. I just smiled back, helpless. I knew she meant well. Honestly, I was already past the worst of it. Sitting there, waiting, I felt like I had aged years in just a few hours. I'd already been more mature than other kids my age because of my sister. Now I was even calmer. The past, all those top rankings and bright moments, was just the past. I had to look ahead. I made a quiet decision. I would live my life well. I would take care of my sister. I would save up little by little. And one day, when I had enough, I'd exchange my savings for attribute points, step outside the base walls, and do my part to help end the disasters. Even as a farmer, I wouldn't give up that dream. After a while, everyone from the North District finished gathering, and we started the ride home. Things had changed a lot since the original energy era began. Old vehicles had been replaced by new ones powered by this energy. Artificers were the ones who modified and built these machines. In the old peaceful days, their class would have been one of the most popular, right after combat classes. But now, in a world ruled by battle, only the top artificers really mattered. The lower ones couldn't do much. On the ride, Mr. Li sat down beside me, and Chu Wei, quietly, so only we could hear, he asked me my profession. I answered honestly. Farmer, I said it calmly. I meant it. He sighed softly. I could see it in his eyes. He felt sorry for me. He thought about all the years I'd worked so hard, all the top rankings, all the sweat. And now, a farmer. But there was nothing he could do. Awakening wasn't like a school exam. You only got one shot. No retakes. He patted my shoulder gently and closed his notebook. He told me the rules didn't require more details for life professions, partly to protect our pride, partly because life jobs didn't need special training from the school. I just nodded and looked out the window. He probably thought I'd fade into the crowd like other ordinary kids before me. Maybe I would. Maybe I wouldn't. But either way, my story wasn't over. It was just starting. The vehicle took us back to our school in the North District. After the bright Central District, our school looked small and quiet. But the school leaders were all smiles. This year's group had more combat awakenings than last year, and a few rare talents like Chu Wei. For them, that meant more strength against the disasters, more hope. They didn't forget about us life profession kids either. They gave us kind words and told us to keep improving our skills and help build the base. I appreciated the effort, even if the words couldn't really change my situation. Once the date for the graduation trial was set, it hit me. We were really almost done with school. More than 10 years of my life here, and now it was ending. Chu Wei and I walked out the school gate together. We stopped and looked back at the campus. So many memories. So much effort. The next time we saw it, everything would feel different. Shen Xingyan, see you at the trial next month, she said, trying to sound cheerful. I'll level up in the Star Source world and ask my family for better gear. Don't worry, I'll look out for you. Her eyes were a little red, even though she was smiling. I knew what this moment really was. After graduation, our paths would split. She was going to climb high, higher than I could probably ever reach. We were two lines that had crossed for a while, and now we were moving apart. I started to reach out to pat her head like I always did, but I stopped myself halfway. Instead, I just patted her shoulder. Keep working hard. We'll be counting on you to protect us someday. Don't slack off. See you in a month. I smiled, waved, and turned left toward the poorer edge of the district where I lived. Behind me, she yelled, "See you in a month." I raised my hand and waved twice without turning around. Then I kept walking down the road I'd walked 1,000 times. I tried to notice every tree, every patch of grass along the way. It helped with the ache of saying goodbye. When I got home, I stopped outside for a second, took a deep breath, and put on a smile before opening the door. My little sister, Xingyan, had been waiting all day. She knew today was my awakening. She'd been praying since morning that I'd get a good profession. She knew how hard I trained, how I'd secretly put in extra hours before every school competition just to win prize money so our lives could be a little better. The moment she heard me coming, she ran to the window, then flung the door open and jumped into my arms. "Brother, how did it go? What profession did you get?" I stayed quiet until we were both inside. Then I told her calmly, "Farmer." I handed her the black card from the awakening. For years we'd lived on base support and whatever I earned in school contests, and we never really had money of our own. Now with this card, maybe we could finally start managing our own lives. She's only 13, but she's smart. She knows what the professions mean. I saw the flash of disappointment on her face, but she squeezed me tight and said, fierce and determined, "It's okay, brother. In 5 years it'll be my turn. I'll get a top combat profession. I'll beat the disasters. I'll earn lots of money. Our lives will only get better. I looked at her little determined face, and I had to smile. I patted her head gently. Don't worry, your brother isn't that fragile. Farming is more than enough to keep us fed. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. When I start earning, I'll buy you good ingredients so you don't have to work so hard. She nodded hard. I could see her quietly deciding to train even more than before. That's just who she is. I went to the kitchen and started cooking. She went to her room to practice her body training exercises. The food in our kitchen was from the basis support program, but now that I was 18, that support was going to end soon. I needed to start farming in the Star Source world as fast as possible. After we ate, I went to my room, lay down on my bed, and pressed the black card to my forehead. I focused my mind. My consciousness pulled away from my body, and in an instant, I was somewhere else entirely. I was in the Star Source world. Lying on my bed, my vision suddenly went dark. I felt myself being pulled somewhere, like some power was carrying me through space and time. Bright lights and shifting colors spun around me and made me dizzy, so I shut my eyes. After a moment, I felt solid ground under my feet. I slowly opened my eyes. The world in front of me was stunning. Bright colors everywhere, scenery like a painting come to life. I'd never seen anything like it. I couldn't help saying out loud, "Does the outside world have places like this too?" When my amazement settled, I realized I was standing in the center of a huge platform. A soft mist surrounded the edges, hiding whatever was beyond. In front of me stood tall figures, one for each profession. They wore beautiful gear and looked powerful. Under each one was a short description of that profession. I read them one by one. I had learned all this in school, but seeing the final forms like this made everything feel real. When my eyes passed over the combat professions, I felt a flicker of admiration. Then I came to the farmer. He was just an old man. No shining armor, no grand presence. Just an ordinary-looking elder. His face was full of deep wrinkles, his skin dark from the sun. He wore loose clothes tied with a rough cloth belt and worn-out cloth shoes that looked like they'd been with him for years. His hands were rough and full of calluses. Everything about him spoke of hard work and endurance. I understood right then why people looked down on this profession. It was like the statue was telling me, you will work hard your whole life, and in the end, you will be a tired old man. For an 18-year-old full of dreams, it was a hard future to accept. But strangely, I didn't feel disappointed looking at him. Maybe because I was a farmer too. Maybe because I'd grown up fast. Instead of dislike, I felt something warm, like I was looking at family. Without thinking, I bowed to the old man. It felt right, like I was showing respect to an elder, or maybe to who I might become one day. I didn't see it, but as I bowed, the old man's face suddenly came alive. A soft light glowed on his wrinkled face, and his eyes filled with warmth and approval. A faint glow left his body and quietly slipped into my forehead. Then he went still again. When I stood back up, everything looked the same as before. I noticed nothing. Then a mysterious voice spoke in my ear. Welcome to the Star Origin world, young adventurer. Countless challenges and opportunities await you. Approach your profession statue to begin your journey. I wasn't shocked. School had taught us about this. I also knew the warning. Some students had tried to stand in front of a combat statue instead of their real profession, hoping for something better. Nothing happened, and the world kicked them out for 30 days as punishment. I took a deep breath and walked firmly up to the old man. A beam of light shot out of the statue and wrapped around me. Profession selection complete. Please set your name in the Star Origin world. Choose carefully. This name will stay with you for countless days and nights. I thought about it. An old saying from long ago came to my mind. A single spark can start a great fire. That was me. Small now, maybe, but I could become something more. My name will be Starfire Blaze. Name set successfully. Reading your personal information, please wait. My info appeared in front of me. Same as before. Farmer. All stats at 10. Summon skeleton talent. No money. Nothing had changed. I checked it a few times just to be sure. Link successful. Would you like to enter the world of Star Source? Enter, I said without hesitation. The scene shifted again. The quiet platform disappeared. In its place was a small, worn-out village full of noise and chatter. People, movement, life everywhere. My new world had begun. The first thing I noticed was my new outfit. It had a faint glow to it. Then I looked around and saw the street was packed. People in all kinds of strange gear. each one looking fierce and strong. Clearly all combat professionals. In the real world, these kinds of rare combat classes were something special. Here in this little village, they were everywhere. I felt like a country boy wandering into a big city for the first time, eyes wide at everything. Vendors were shouting. Players were forming teams. Conversations buzzed in every direction. The whole place felt alive. Is this what people used to be like long ago, when there was no pressure from the outside world? I said quietly to myself. It feels so relaxing. Back in reality, disasters could hit any day. We lived most of our lives inside protected rooms and only went out to train or buy what we needed. That constant danger was just normal for us. Even in the central district, nothing felt this peaceful. I understood now why people loved staying here. You could level up, earn real money, and for a little while, forget the weight of the outside world. I shook off the thought and opened my inventory. A 36-slot grid appeared in front of me. Mostly empty. Kind of sad, honestly. Only the first 3 slots had anything. The starter items from the Star Source world. Rough cloth pants. No level needed. No stat bonus. No durability limit. Basic warmth. Beginner farmer gear. Coarse linen shirt. Same deal. A hoe. Physical attack 1. A basic farming tool. I looked at my farmer's starter set and let out a small bitter smile. The stats were even worse than what the books described. Truly beginner gear. All I needed now was a straw hat to complete the look. But I did notice one good thing. None of it had a durability limit. As long as I wore this outfit, I'd never need to pay a tailor or blacksmith for repairs. That was real money saved. Then I looked at the wallet in the corner of my inventory. This wallet worked in the real world too. Right now it showed 10 copper coins, the basic starter money the system gave everyone. That small amount was important. Any job here used up stamina, and if your energy dropped below 3 points, you'd go into a weakened state. That 10 copper was enough for a beginner to buy some food and avoid that. The silver and gold slots both showed a big colorful 0. It almost looked like they were mocking me. I wanted to wipe them off. I remembered the exchange rate from school. 1,000 copper equals 1 silver. 1,000 silver equals 1 gold. 1 copper was about 10 cents in the old days, before the energy surge. So 10 copper was about 1 yuan. 1 silver was about 100 yuan. And 1 gold, about 100,000 yuan. A huge amount. Getting rid of those zeros through farming was going to take a long time. I knew that. After checking everything, I focused my mind, and suddenly I was in my professional space. Congratulations. You have entered the farmer's space for the first time. You are rewarded with 1 bag of wheat seeds. A voice rang in my ear. I opened my inventory and saw the seeds in the 4th slot. Wheat seeds. Grow time, 10 days. Planting area, 600 square meters. I had to admit, the system was thoughtful. Clothes, tools, seeds. Everything a beginner needed to start. The quality was low, sure, but at least they gave me the basics. All that was left now was for me to actually get to work. I looked around my space. Quiet. Peaceful. My own. This was the big advantage of life professions. Every one of us had our own personal workspace. Combat professionals didn't get anything like this. They had to go out, take missions, fight monsters in dungeons or the wild, and grab loot to make money. They earned faster than us. Taking is always quicker than making. But I had this little piece of land, about 1 acre. Small, but enough to keep me busy all day. Enough to feed me and my sister. There's an old saying, with food in hand, the heart stays calm. Looking at my small field, for the first time all day, I felt it. A quiet kind of peace. Whatever else happened, at least the 2 of us wouldn't go hungry. It wasn't much, but it was a start. And it was mine. My temporary outfit was starting to fade. That meant my newcomer time in the Star Source world was ending. The system gives new players a fake outfit at first so they can walk around without looking out of place. But that grace period was almost up. I quickly equipped my 3 starter pieces, shirt, pants, and hoe, so I wouldn't get flagged for being improperly dressed. The starter set filled 3 slots, weapon, top, and bottom. Only 1 item per slot, no duplicates. I looked at my big equipment panel with just 3 lonely items on it. It looked so empty. I closed it fast. No point staring at what I didn't have. Once the gear was on, I looked like a real farmer. I checked myself up and down and gave a small nod. Not bad. The only thing that felt weird was my bare feet pressing into the soil. I'd always worn shoes. But then I thought, Farmers long ago worked barefoot in the fields all the time. I could get used to it. I touched the rough fabric. It felt okay. Since I was only here in spirit, the sensations weren't as sharp as in real life. I stretched a little and thought, I'll probably be in this outfit for a long while. Then I picked up my hoe and looked at my field. Just as I was about to start planting, a thought hit me. My talent. Summon skeleton. All stats at 1. The skeleton was way too weak to fight anyone. But what if I used it differently? What if it helped me farm instead? For a farmer, farming itself was kind of like battle. Why not? If this worked, my farming speed could go up a lot. I activated the skill. Without meaning to, I started chanting a strange melody. I had no idea what the words meant, but they just came out of me naturally. The ground trembled in front of me. A pale skull slowly rose from the soil. Anyone else might have been scared, but I knew it was coming. Still, I couldn't help thinking, a farmer summoning a skeleton from the dirt? Pretty fitting, actually. Very down to earth. The chant ended, and the full skeleton stood in front of me. I slapped my forehead. It was tiny, about the size of a 6 or 7-year-old kid, like a little apprentice skeleton, and its bones were dull and cracked in a few places, like it might fall apart any second. If I took this thing to a battlefield, I thought, nobody would even need to attack it. They'd just laugh it to death. I checked its stats. Everything was at 1. Name was just Little Skeleton. I could rename it later. Its health was 10, and it healed 1 point every 10 hours. It had no skills of its own, but it could follow my commands, and I could talk to it through a mental link that just came to me naturally. I sighed and let the disappointment go. Okay, little guy, you can't fight, but let's see if you can plant. I grabbed my seed bag and my hoe and headed to the field. I used my mental link to call the skeleton to follow me. It came along, a little slow, but it came. At the field, I dug a small hole with my hoe and made sure the skeleton was watching. Then I placed a seed inside. I did it a second time to make sure it understood. Then I handed it the seed bag, dug another hole, and gestured for it to plant the next one. The skeleton just stood there. I thought, well, it was worth a try. I was about to take the seed bag back. Then it moved. Its bony little fingers picked up a seed, and it dropped it into the hole, exactly like I had done. Clumsy, but correct. I clenched my fist in excitement. 2 workers planting together is way better than 1, I said to myself. Easier work, more careful planting, and more seeds in the ground. Maybe my talent wasn't useless after all. Someone rich and strong would probably laugh at something this small. But for me, stuck at the bottom with nothing but goals, even a tiny step forward felt huge. I calmed down and got to work. Me and the little skeleton, side by side, hole after hole, seed after seed. Alone, this would have taken me 2 or 3 hours. With the skeleton, we finished in just over an hour. Big improvement. A voice chimed in my ear. Congratulations. You have completed your first planting. Reward. 1 well. Please choose a location. I'd expected a reward. I looked around and picked the center of the field. That way, watering the crops later would be easy from any direction. A well, a skeleton helper, and a field full of wheat seeds. For a farmer with nothing, it was a pretty good start. Once I picked the spot for the well, another message popped up. Setup complete. Please water the field to help the seeds grow better. The system was walking me through everything, step by step, like a tutorial for beginners. A well about knee-high appeared in the center of the field, right where I'd chosen. Me and the little skeleton walked over to check it out. It looked like a normal well at first, same style as the ones I remembered from real life. But when I got closer, I saw something different. In the real world, well water sits deep underground, and you need pumps or buckets on long ropes to pull it up. This well, the water was right up at the top, almost overflowing. I wouldn't need much effort at all to draw from it. The system really thought this through, I said to myself, pretty satisfied. This saves me a ton of work. A few buckets had appeared next to the well. I grabbed them and started watering the field with the little skeleton. And here's what amazed me. No matter how much we drew, the water level never dropped. It stayed full. I shook my head in admiration. Just like the starter set, this well was built for a beginner. I'd never need to worry about water for my crops. Ever. The little skeleton kept working at a steady pace. Slow, but never stopping, like a little machine just running its program. It never looked tired. Then it hit me. The skeleton didn't even have a stamina bar in its stats, so it couldn't get tired. That was huge. Farming is a long, tiring job. After watering, There'd be fertilizing, weeding, pest control, all kinds of chores. But this tireless little helper would make it all way easier. And my talent said I could summon one every day, with a 24-hour cooldown. So as long as I finished my work before it disappeared, I'd have way more free time than other farmers. Watching it wobble around with a water bucket, I actually thought it looked kind of cute. Which is ridiculous, I know. It's a pile of bones. If anyone knew I thought a skeleton was cute, they'd probably give me weird looks for life. But I guess when something's yours, you start seeing it differently. After we finished watering, the voice spoke again. Irrigation complete. Reward, beginner's staff. Please use it to perform your professional skill and speed up crop growth. I opened my inventory. A wooden stick sat in the second slot now. Beginner's staff. Magic attack 1. No level requirement. No durability limit. A tool for using professional skills. Another unbreakable item. Great. I equipped it right away, and the staff appeared in my hand. I played with it for a second and thought of Chu Wei. She was a fire mage. What would her skills look like with a real weapon like hers? I pictured her throwing a fireball big enough to wipe out a monster in one blast, and I couldn't help smiling a little. Then I remembered where I was. I walked to the middle of the field, focused my mind, and tried to release my professional skill. Right away, I felt something move inside me. A gentle flow of energy I had never noticed before. My heart started pounding. Original energy. I'd read about it in textbooks. I'd watch my teachers demonstrate it. I dreamed of feeling it myself for years. And now, here it was, real, flowing inside me. Sure, I was only using a farmer's skill, but that didn't make the moment any less exciting. I could use this power too, same as everyone else. The energy gathered at the tip of my staff. I gently tapped the ground. An invisible aura spread out across about 600 square meters. The little skeleton flinched and stepped back. Made sense. It was an undead creature, and this was a life-type aura. Once it realized the energy wouldn't hurt it, it calmed down and just stood to the side, watching. I didn't even look at the field right away. I wanted to focus on the feeling of releasing the skill, let it sink in. In my head, this skill only made crops grow 10% faster. The seeds had just been planted, so I wasn't expecting to see anything dramatic. But before I could even finish sensing the energy, a wave of green spread in front of me. The seeds I just planted were shooting up out of the ground, fast, like something was pulling them up. In seconds, they stopped, now knee-high. I just stood there, staring. My field, full of green wheat, right in front of my eyes. From nothing, in moments. Maybe being a farmer wasn't going to be boring after all. Congratulations. You have successfully used a profession skill. Farmer Experience 1. Skill successfully activated. Reward, 1 sickle. You can harvest the crops once they mature. 2 messages rang in my ears, but I barely heard them. I just stood there, frozen. What? What's going on? I muttered. When did the skill become this powerful? A 10% growth boost shouldn't be this crazy. My mind went blank for a moment. Then I snapped out of it and quickly pulled up my status panel to check my skill. The description read, consumes a certain amount of energy points to increase the growth progress of crops within a selected area by 10%. The larger the area, the more energy points are consumed. The interval is 10 hours, and the skill cooldown is 24 hours. I read it carefully, word by word. Then my mouth fell open. The wording had changed. Before, it said, growth speed. Now it said, growth progress. Before, it said, duration of 10 hours. Now it said, interval of 10 hours. 2 small word changes. But the meaning? Completely different. Think about wheat. It takes 10 days to grow normally. If my skill sped up growth by 10% for 10 hours a day, that would only save me a tiny bit of time. Less than half a day total. But growth progress was something else entirely. That meant the moment I used the skill, my wheat would jump forward by a full day's worth of growth. Instantly. This was the kind of skill I had only dreamed of. And the second change was even bigger. Duration had become interval. The old skill worked for 10 hours at a time. The new one had no duration at all. The 10 hours was just the gap between uses. Since the cooldown was 24 hours anyway, that meant I could use it once a day, every day, no limit. Every day, I could bump my crops forward by another full day of growth. Even the most advanced crops would only take 10 days for me to finish. My lips started to tremble. This couldn't be real. Right now, I was still level 1, so I could only plant level 1 seeds like wheat. The power of this skill was hidden for now, but when I leveled up and could plant advanced seeds, crops that normally take months or even years, the difference would be insane. Imagine a farmer working carefully on a crop for a whole year, and I'd beat him in 10 days. Anyone would lose their mind over that. I stood there staring at the skill description, imagining years into the future. Back in the old days, people said even one good crop could be worth a fighter's whole day of hard work. What would it feel like to live like that? My eyes, which had been dull all day, started to shine. I could feel it. The little skeleton even turned to look at me. Then I caught myself. I took a deep breath, hard, trying to push out all the excitement. Getting carried away is a big mistake. I repeated it in my head. No matter how strong I might become in the future, that was for later. For now, I had to stay humble. And one thing was absolutely clear. I could not tell anyone about this change in my skill. Not one person. In a world where strength rules, something like this getting out could mean real trouble. I'd lived long enough to know human nature is unpredictable. Small tests of people are fine. Push too hard on their greed, and you get crushed. Once I calmed down, I tried to figure out why my skill had changed like this. I thought about it from every angle. Nothing made sense. No clues. In the end, I just decided I must have gotten lucky, somehow blessed by the star source world itself. I pulled up my full stats to check everything. Level 1. Experience 2 out of 100, 1 starter point, 1 from using my skill. Small, but it was the start. I had 10 copper coins. All my stats still at 10. Energy was down to 13 from using the skill. Then I checked my inventory for the new sickle. Sickle. Attack 1. No level required. No durability limit. An essential farming tool. Another unbreakable item. That made me smile. Once I really understood the potential of my future, my whole mood changed. Everything around me suddenly looked beautiful. The green wheat seedlings. The tall weeds my skill had accidentally boosted along with the wheat. Me and the little skeleton got to work pulling weeds, and I actually enjoyed it. I was humming a little tune I didn't even know. A farmer in a good mood. Nothing like those other new farmers, who always look like someone owes them money. Finishing the weed pulling on the very same day I planted? That had to be a record. Too bad I couldn't share it with anyone. Only I would ever know. As the old saying goes, being invincible is so lonely. So lonely. Little skeleton, I don't know if the next summon will bring you back, but I want to thank you for today's work, I said softly, gently rubbing the smooth top of its skull. Thanks to the 10% boost from my skill, plus normal growth, my wheat had grown by 20% in a single day. But that boost came with a price. The maintenance work was brutal. Today the system sent me so many reminders about taking care of the field that I went numb to them. In the real world, wheat takes 6 or 7 months to grow, and in all that time, pest control, weeding, and watering are spread out pretty thin. But the star source world is different. Growth is way faster here. Without any skills at all, wheat matures in just 10 days. Now imagine squeezing 6 or 7 months of work into 10 days. And then imagine I had shortened that 10 days in half with my skill. The workload was crazy. Constant pests, constant weeds, constant watering. Every time me and the little skeleton finished one task, a new one popped up right after. Every task needed my direct attention. Even as a new player with full energy, my stamina drained fast. That really proved the old saying, you get what you put in. Luckily, I had 10 copper coins from the starter kit. I spent 2 on 2 steamed buns from the system shop, and that kept my stamina from dropping into the red. And apparently, when I eventually plant advanced seeds, there's going to be fertilizing on top of everything else. More daily tasks. Being a farmer is tough. That's no exaggeration. Good thing I had the little skeleton. Without it, I don't know how I would have managed. But I refused to give up. I carefully finished each task as the system asked. Past mistakes had taught me well. No work means no money, and no money means a hard life. I also stuck to the tasks for 2 specific reasons. First, if I skipped them for too long, the system would actually punish me by making the crops take longer. Wheat that normally takes 10 days could stretch to a whole month. That was the last thing I wanted. Second, my final harvest depended on how hard I worked. A lazy acre of wheat might give 300 kilos. A well-tended one could give 1,000 or more. 2 or 3 times the yield, just from effort. It had been almost 12 hours since I started. Me and the skeleton only took short breaks here and there. I was tired now, but I could keep going. More work now meant a bigger harvest in 5 days. Simple math. But the system gave me a warning. My daily online limit was about to hit. New players could only stay for 12 hours a day. Any longer, and the system would kick me out automatically. I could extend my time later by reaching level 20 or by paying, but for now, I was stuck with 12. I looked at the little skeleton that had been with me all those hours. I felt a little sad. But what could I do? The good news, it hadn't disappeared yet. That meant from now on, whenever I came to farm, I'd have a loyal, tireless helper by my side. That was something to be grateful for. After I leave, you can do as much as you can based on these hints, I told it. A skeleton standing here waiting to disappear looks pretty lonely, so just keep working to distract yourself. The moment I finished saying that, I felt a weird twinge. My little speech sounded suspicious, like one of those greedy bosses talking noble words while secretly squeezing more work out of their employees. But then I reminded myself, the skeleton didn't have feelings. No body limits either. It was basically a robot. My guilty feeling faded instantly. I'd told it to follow the hints for a reason. The system only notified me in the ears for reward-based hints. For regular maintenance, it just showed icons above the wheat field. Farmers could see them just by looking up. If you ignored them too long, then the voice reminders kicked in. I'd noticed something interesting. Even though the skeleton's eye sockets were empty, it could still see things, including the icons. So I'd walked it through what to do when each icon showed up. By the end, it understood. It was smarter than it looked. I couldn't help admiring it. I waved goodbye, found the exit button, and clicked it. In an instant, my consciousness pulled back to the real world. Behind me, in the Star Source world, the little skeleton stood still for a long time, waiting for me to come back. When it finally realized I wasn't returning, it turned around, saw a new icon pop up above the field, and went right back to work. Following the last command I gave it, all on its own. I slowly woke up in the real world, feeling tired. My head ached a little, and I shook it to clear the fog. Being out of my body for so long left me uncomfortable. I stared at the familiar ceiling above me and thought about everything that had just happened in the Star Source world. The contrast hit me hard. Here, in reality, the buildings looked cold and the world outside was always dangerous. There, everything felt peaceful, full of hope. It was almost like I had just dreamed all of it. The surprises had been so big that coming back felt unreal. I pressed the black card to my forehead and checked my stats. My skill matched exactly what it showed in the Star Source world. Stamina was down to 4 out of 10 from all that work. My money had dropped to 8 copper coins after buying the steamed buns. My online countdown showed 12 hours until I could go back in. Seeing all of it laid out in front of me made my mood settle. I really had changed. The disappointment I'd felt after awakening as a farmer now seemed like a tiny bump. A small moment. Looking at these numbers, I felt a quiet kind of happiness. It was already early morning. I was tired and hungry. I slipped out of my room quietly so I wouldn't wake my sister and went to the kitchen. I made breakfast for both of us, ate my portion, kept hers warm, and then went back to bed for some real sleep. Meanwhile, though I didn't know it, back in the Star Source world, my little skeleton was still working. The system kept giving it tasks, and it kept following them. Whenever it took too long, a new hint appeared. No rest. No breaks. My wheat was growing stronger and healthier by the hour. Other farmers who logged out just let their fields fall apart. Weeds everywhere, pests, dried soil. When harvest came, those farmers might get 400 or 500 gene from 1 acre. Mine? At least double that. I had no idea any of this was happening. I was lost in a dream. In the dream, I had become powerful, the kind of person who could fly through the air like the commander of Base 6, destroying disasters with one finger. I had even brought back my parents. We were all walking together on a busy street, happy. Then something huge and dark crashed into me. A disaster. My dream shattered. I sat straight up in bed, gasping for breath, sweat all over my forehead. My hands were shaking, and I couldn't stop them. I clenched my fists tight. The dream reminded me of something real. I had only been awakened for 1 day. My skill might be special, but the true power was all in the future, in the later stages, with better seeds. For now, I was weak. I had to hide what I had. I had to gather strength slowly, quietly. I whispered to myself, one day, this farmer profession will make the disasters afraid. Life is long. I had time. I took a deep breath and checked the clock. Almost noon. My sister ate lunch at school, so I didn't have to cook for her. I made something simple for myself, just enough to take the edge off my hunger. I didn't dare eat too much. Now that I had awakened, the base's rules kicked in. Once a family member becomes a professional, they lose the right to free supplies. Resources at the base were limited, and they couldn't just hand them out forever. We didn't have much food stored at home. I had to save, especially for my sister. Once my wheat matured and I sold it, we'd be able to buy more. I could also extract food directly from the star source world into reality. The numbers I'd learned showed both paths cost about the same. Selling 1 kilogram of wheat to the in-game market earned me 2 copper, but extracting 1 kilogram out to the real world cost 20 copper, a 1-to-10 ratio. And buying 1 kilogram of wheat in real life cost about 19 copper. So it was slightly cheaper to buy here than to extract. Either way, I only had 8 copper coins. Not even enough for 1 kilogram. Frugal it was. After eating, I checked the card again. 5 hours until I could enter the star source world. I didn't waste the time. I started practicing the body techniques the school had taught us. Back when I was still a student, no matter how much I trained, I barely improved. The teachers told us this was normal, a wall everyone hits before awakening. Once we awakened, they said, our bodies would open up and we'd finally grow fast. And now, doing the exercises, I could feel it. My teacher was right. It was like a gate inside my body had unlocked. Feelings that had been bottled up for years came rushing out. Every motion felt smoother, stronger, freer than it ever had before. For the first time, I wasn't just training. I was growing. After 5 hours of training, I was tired, but I could feel my body getting stronger. That satisfying feeling, put in the work, see the result, was finally coming back. I checked my star source card. The stats hadn't gone up yet, but I knew what I felt was real. With daily training, the numbers would catch up eventually. The countdown to enter the star source world was almost done. I quickly made dinner for me and my sister. I ate mine, saved hers, and scribbled a note so she wouldn't worry. Then I went back to my room. There was still a bit of time left, so I didn't just sit around. I pulled out the school's materials on professions and focused on the farmer section. I'd studied all the professions in school, but at different depths. Since my dream was to go outside the base and fight disasters, I dug deep into combat classes, how they stacked together, what they could do at each stage, the best distances for their skills. But life professions? I only knew the basics. Farmers were so common that I never saw a reason to study them carefully. Now that I was one, with a skill that seemed to be something special, I wanted to understand this path properly. And that's when I found something important. My skill wasn't listed anywhere in the school materials. Most farmers had the same skill, boost crop growth speed. It lasted a day, couldn't stack, had to be used again daily just to keep the 10% bonus going. A rare few got things like temporary efficiency boosts or small strength buffs. But nothing like mine. No other profession I could find had skills that worked the way mine did. It was almost like a glitch. That settled it for me. I was absolutely going to keep this quiet. Low profile. Steady growth. When I looked up, my cooldown was gone. I went back to bed, pressed the card to my forehead, and everything went dark. I entered the star source world. This time I didn't appear on the huge platform. I appeared right inside my profession space. The rule was that you returned to wherever you left. I adapted faster too. No dizzy feeling this time. Maybe because I was mentally ready. I looked at my wheat field and smiled. The wheat looked good. Strong. Healthy. With everything I'd just read, I was confident. This acre was going to give me a solid harvest. But then something felt off. There was only one weed removal icon above the field. Just one. I expected to see a whole cluster. From what I'd studied, crop yields could change a lot based on something called task stagnation. If you let the daily maintenance pile up too long, bad things happen. Weeds choke the crops. No watering dries them out. Your harvest drops. Most farmers suffered from this because the system only lets them stay in the world for half the time the crops actually need. And humans need rest. They can't work at full energy all day. Some tasks just never get done. Farmers basically hoped the system would go easy on them. But what I was seeing, 12 hours gone, about 1/20th of a wheat's normal growth cycle, and only one icon? For any other farmer, this would be amazing news. For me, it was strange. When I left, the prompts had been rolling in one after another. There was no way the system had suddenly decided to be nice to me the moment I logged out. I thought about it for a while. Couldn't figure it out. I gave up and chalked it up to luck. Maybe the star source world liked me. It had changed my skill, after all. Maybe it was just being kind. I was about to summon my skeleton and get to work when I noticed something moving in the wheat field. I froze, then stepped back, twice. I'd read that monsters could sometimes appear in a profession space and attack the owner. But that was supposed to happen to high-level professionals, not a brand-new farmer like me. I wasn't ready for a fight. I was a little bug, not someone worth the world's protection. I backed up carefully, eyes locked on the movement. The thing was heading right for the edge of the field. It was about to come out. I quickly swapped in my hoe, attack one, and raised it, ready to swing. Then the figure pushed through the wheat. It was my little skeleton, the same one from yesterday. I stared at it in complete shock, hoe still raised. Why haven't you disappeared yet? I stared at the little skeleton that had been with me all day yesterday. I was so shocked I almost dropped my hoe. The excitement hit me hard, making my head spin. The skeleton just stood there, tilting its skull like it was confused, as if asking, why should I disappear? Turned out, while I was away, it had just been quietly doing its job, pulling weeds, following the hint icons from the system. That's why I hadn't spotted it at first in the wheat. When it sensed me, it slowly walked over. Hearing me say, why haven't you disappeared, like that? Thank goodness skeletons don't have feelings. If it had any emotions, my words would have probably broken its heart. It had worked so hard without complaint, and the first thing its master said was basically, why are you still here? I felt a little bad after that. Then it clicked. I looked at the skeleton, then at the single maintenance icon above the field. Suddenly I understood everything. So that's why there's only one icon, I said. Because the little skeleton kept following the hints the whole time I was gone. The task penalty never had a chance to build up. That makes sense. I crouched down and gently patted the skeleton's smooth skull. I was so happy. This little guy was way more useful than I thought. I still didn't know why it hadn't vanished after 24 hours like I expected. But the result? Amazing. With a tireless helper keeping my farm maintained even when I was logged out, my final harvest was going to be something else. No one else could keep their crops perfectly tended while offline. But I could. Sure, eventually, when my farm got bigger, one little skeleton wouldn't be enough to cover everything. But for now, this was an edge nobody else had. Little skeleton, you did a great job, I said, patting it again. I didn't expect you to be so capable. You're really amazing. It stood there looking a bit dazed from being praised. Adorable, honestly. A full 24 hours and you're still here, I said. Looks like I misunderstood the cooldown. The 24 hours isn't when you disappear. It's just when I can summon again. I like this kind of misunderstanding. From now on, we're long-term partners. You need a proper name. I can't just keep calling you little skeleton. I thought for a moment and came up with one. From now on, your name is Wonkai. You're capable. You bring good luck. It fits you perfectly. I opened its info and changed the name line. Everything else stayed the same. All stats at 1. No skills, health 10 out of 10. Looking at those low numbers didn't bother me anymore. With how hardworking and smart Wonkai was, the stats didn't matter as much. What I didn't notice was that right after I named it, Wangcai's body trembled slightly, like something had been poured into it. But nothing looked different on the outside. Once the excitement passed, I stood up, ready to start the day's work. Even with a surprise this big, the farm still needed tending. I'd grown up early, and I knew. Progress comes step by step. Talent means nothing if you just sit on it. It's just decoration at that point. I lifted my hoe, ready to step into the field. Then a thought hit me so hard I froze in place. I pulled up my status panel and stared at my talent skill. Summon skeleton. Summons a skeleton with all stats at 1 for battle. Cooldown, 24 hours. No cooldown timer showing. The skill was ready. My suspicion turned into certainty. Shock spread across my face. The cooldown was 24 hours. Wonkai was still standing right next to me. Did that mean I could summon another skeleton right now? My body started to tremble. My hands shook. I jammed the hoe into the ground to keep from falling over. I stood there like that for a while, long enough that Wonkai tilted its head, watching me, wondering if something was wrong with me. I took several deep breaths, forcing myself to calm down. I stared at my skill, and finally I couldn't wait another second. Use skill. Summon skeleton. Strange melodic sounds poured out of my mouth, the same as before. The ground in front of me trembled. A skull slowly pushed up through the soil, just like Wonkai had. When the chant ended, a second little skeleton stood in front of me. Identical to Wonkai. I just stared at it, silent. stunned, kind of numb, honestly, from everything that had just happened today. 2 skeletons. Both mine. Both tireless. Both mine to command. This farmer's life? It was turning out to be a lot more interesting than I ever imagined. How is this summoning skill different from what I imagined? Wonkai didn't disappear, which was already a big surprise. Now I can even summon new skeletons. If they all stay here forever, then I could summon a skeleton every 24 hours. Stretching this timeline, the future is simply unimaginable. At this moment, Shen Xingyan keeps thinking about this method. He stares blankly at the small skeleton in front of him and then looks at the talent skill on the attribute panel. The skill description mentions a 24-hour cooldown. He had always thought this meant the skeleton would disappear and be resummoned within 24 hours. But now, the reality shows him that this time is just the cooldown for the skill itself, not the time for the skeleton to vanish and be replaced. This shocking realization hits Shen Xingyan hard, pulling him out of his excitement and making him feel dizzy. Wonkai also looks at the new skeleton, tilting its skull slightly as if curious or confused. When Shen Xingyan recovers from his dizziness, his stiff body begins to relax slowly. He starts to get used to this surprise, both physically and mentally. Because of the magical mutation of his profession skill, he now feels more confident than ever. It's like a rock, strong and unbreakable. Shen Xingyan checks the attributes of the small skeleton in front of him. They are almost identical to Wang's size, both with all attributes at 1. Even if there are hundreds of thousands or millions of these small skeletons on the battlefield, they are destined to cause no waves. They would be wiped out by a single enemy skill. However, in Shen Xingyan's professional space, things are completely different. The loyalty of the little skeletons and their lack of stamina restrictions, combined with his skill that increases crop growth by 10%, make their role incredibly powerful, more so than any divine-level skill. From now on, as my professional skill improves crop growth speed, the little skeletons will be responsible for all farm maintenance work. As more little skeletons appear in the future, not only will crop yields reach a peak, but I can also take the chance to step back and improve my own physical attributes. Hopefully, in the future, I can even go to the outer battlefield to fight low-level disasters. What I once dreamed of might actually become possible. Thinking about fighting in the outer battlefield, Shen Xingyan felt a surge of excitement in his mind, and his eyes couldn't help but turn red. Since awakening his farmer profession, he had already accepted the harsh reality of shattered dreams. But now, with these 2 powerful skills, his broken dream was being pieced back together, feeling almost within reach. This made him feel a little emotional. Although Shen Xingyan had been more mature than others since childhood, he was still just a young adult. His usual tough exterior was just a way to cope with family and life. In a world filled with external disasters, he had to act that way. But now, with these 2 strong skills protecting him, Shen Xingyan finally felt like he had found a warm harbor. He could relax his tense mind and truly breathe. These skills seemed like a stepping stone in his life, helping him leap higher step by step. He looked up at the sky. Although it was just the sky of the source world, he seemed to see the hopeful blue of the real world. Come on, Wonkai, little skeleton. Let's go pull weeds. After feeling emotional, Shen Xingyan quickly returned to his usual self. The overall relaxed feeling and the firm confidence deep in his eyes seemed rooted deeply, making him appear more steady than ever. After hearing Shen Xingyan's command, Wonkai immediately followed. Just as they reached the edge of the wheat field, Wonkai was about to go into the field to continue his work. Suddenly, Shen Xingyan stopped walking. Wonkai also stopped his cart, raising his small skull to look at his master, confused about why he suddenly paused. Instead of looking at Wonkai, Shen Xingyan turned around and looked at the small skull that was still standing in place and not following him. The newly summoned small skull had not yet understood his commands, which made Shen Xingyan feel puzzled. He looked at the small skull, then at Wonkai, and suddenly had a clear idea. He gently patted his forehead and muttered to himself, "Wow, I forgot. The small skull I just summoned doesn't understand anything yet, let alone do weeding. It's no wonder it didn't understand my earlier instructions." Then he thought about going forward to personally teach the second small skull how to weed. But after taking half a step, he seemed to remember something and stopped himself. "Wonkai, go teach the new small skull how to weed," Shen Xingyan said, turning to his trusted assistant, Chief Wonkai. He squatted down, touched its skull, and softly gave the order. Shen Xingyan wasn't sure if Wang Kai could understand him, but he thought to himself, I have to try, at least. His idea was simple. As the skeleton team grew larger in the future, he couldn't possibly teach every skeleton how to do farm work himself. Although teaching one small skull each day wouldn't take up too much time, over time, it would add up to a lot. Plus, as his skills improved, the work he needed to do would become more varied. When the number of skeletons increased significantly, teaching each one individually would be a huge task. Wang Kai, having worked all day on farm chores, was already quite familiar with the tasks. If he could replace Shen Xingyan in teaching the new summoned skeletons, it would save him a lot of trouble. In Shen Xingyan's hopeful eyes, Wang Kai only paused slightly, as if processing his command. Then, in just a moment, Wang Kai walked over to the small skull. Seeing this, Shen Xingyan quickly crouched down, watching carefully, eager to see if it would work. Wang Kai walked over to the small skeleton, pointed at Shen Xingyan with a slightly greenish finger bone from pulling weeds, then pointed at himself. He then tapped the small skeleton's skull twice with his finger bone and headed toward the wheat field. The small skeleton just looked at Shen Xingyan and then at Wang Kai. It lowered its head slightly, as if understanding Wang Kai's meaning, and followed Wang Kai toward the wheat field. Shen Xingyan watched the two small skeletons enter the wheat field and followed them, curious to see how Wang Kai was guiding the small skeletons to work. Wang Kai made a move, and the new small skeleton copied the same action. The two skeletons no longer needed to mimic each other step by step. Shen Xingyan was a bit confused, wondering how they communicated. After repeating the actions a few times, Wang Kai stopped pulling weeds and led the small skeleton back to Shen Xingyan's side. Is it all done now? Shen Xingyan looked at Wang Kai, who was quietly standing beside him, with surprise. It seemed as if Wang Kai had finished giving him instructions and was now in a quiet state, waiting for the next command. Shen Xingyan crouched down and patted Wang Kai's skull with admiration. Although this skeleton looked a little scary, it made him feel like he had found a treasure. If he wasn't worried about others thinking he was strange, he might even want to kiss it. He remembered that when he taught Wang Kai these work actions, he did so as Wang Kai's owner, which naturally gave him some skill advantages. Plus, Shen Xingyan was a smart person. He knew how to help a skeleton that didn't understand anything better follow his instructions. All these factors helped Wang Kai learn quickly. Wang Kai's earlier tutorial, although similar to his own, could make the small skeleton learn so fast even without the forceful commands of skills. This showed that the skeleton's natural efficiency was much higher than Shen Xingyan's, which was quite surprising. Could it be that skeletons have a special way of connecting or communicating, making their communication more efficient? Shen Xingyan wondered silently. Somewhat confused, Shen Xingyan directly asked Wang Kai if he was the one he had guessed earlier. He let Wang Kai nod if he was correct, or shake his head if he was wrong. However, Wang Kai seemed to completely misunderstand his owner's words and stood there without any reaction. It's probably because I was too greedy. Just having Wang Kai follow basic commands perfectly is already great. Asking it to answer questions is too much for it. Shen Xingyan shook his head in disappointment. He realized he had been a bit delusional, expecting a simple skeleton that only follows instructions to answer his questions. Maybe I've been too lucky lately. The changes in my skills and the potential of my talents are making me overthink everything. I need to stay steady and not be too fanciful, he thought to himself, criticizing and encouraging himself. Since he couldn't get useful information from Wang Kai and had no other way to solve his doubts, Shen Xingyan decided to put the problem aside for now. Let's go. We'll complete the weed-pulling task in the wheat field, he said cautiously to the two skeletons. Although he had a guess about the outcome, he still felt uneasy until it was confirmed. Hearing Shen Xingyan's command, Wang Kai and his little skeleton follower headed straight in one direction to start pulling weeds. Seeing the result before him, Shen Xingyan exclaimed happily, "That's fantastic. From now on, I'll let Wang Kai handle planting guidance. He just needs to give commands, which saves me effort and worry," he thought happily. With 3 workers pulling weeds together, the task was completed very quickly. But when the weed-pulling completion notification disappeared, Shen Xingyan remembered that he had been so amazed by the magic of his talents and the skeleton's excellent abilities that he forgot to use his powerful skill immediately after the cooldown ended. He felt a bit regretful about wasting a few minutes. He quickly activated his professional skill, consuming 5 original energy points, which increased the growth progress of the crops on 1 acre by 10%. Congratulations! You have successfully used your professional skill. Farmer Experience Points 1. As the professional skills affected this 1 acre of wheat field, Shen Xingyan clearly felt that the surrounding wheat had reached its growth limit and was beginning to develop into the seed-bearing stage. Seeing the lively wheat, Shen Xingyan's previous slight bias against farmers gradually disappeared. He suddenly realized the happiness that should come with being a farmer, that is, the joy of creating life. Watching the crops in the field grow little by little with hope, eventually becoming what they wanted, was a feeling of nurturing that only farmers could truly understand. This made Shen Xingyan quite fascinated. If it weren't for external disasters, being an ordinary farmer could actually be quite happy, he thought to himself. After this reflection, Shen Xingyan no longer hesitated. The irrigation maintenance icon had already appeared above the wheat field, so he quickly took Wang Kai and the little skeleton to continue working. Under Wang Cai's guidance, the little skeleton quickly became familiar with all the maintenance tasks for the wheat field. Its movements became faster and more efficient, which greatly improved their work speed. With 3 workers working together, they could finish the maintenance tasks on 1 acre of wheat very quickly. Compared to the first day, the difficulty of completing the tasks was much lower. However, the prompts from Xingyuan seemed to be as relentless as the little skeleton's stamina, with no sign of stopping. Usually, right after they finished one task, another prompt would appear immediately, leaving Shen Xingyan no chance to rest. After about 5 or 6 hours of hard work, Shen Xingyan's stamina was almost at the warning level. Only then did the prompts from Xingyuan slow down, and the intervals between the 2 prompts gradually lengthened. Shen Xingyan bought 2 steamed buns from the Xingyuan shop for 2 copper coins and sat on the ground eating. He noticed the prompts slowing down and felt a bit relieved. 10% growth progress is indeed very powerful, but it also requires enough labor to match it. Otherwise, if he tried to maintain the wheat field alone, not only would multiple icons appear above the field, but the wheat might also suffer penalties for task delays, leading to a significant reduction in the final harvest. While nibbling on a steamed bun to regain his stamina, Shen Xingyan marveled at how well his 2 skills complemented each other. If either skill had appeared alone, the effect wouldn't have been so impressive. Watching the 2 small skeletons busy in the wheat field, Shen Xingyan felt a wave of envy. These skeletons, without any stamina limits, seemed like natural work machines. After finishing his bun, Shen Xingyan lay on the ground, slowly restoring his energy. Looking up at the peaceful sky of Xingyuan, he felt a deep sense of calm and safety. Thinking about his 2 powerful skills, Shen Xingyan smiled happily. The feeling of happiness was so strong that he unknowingly fell asleep. Soon, the icon in the wheat field disappeared, and Wang Kai and the small skeletons returned to Shen Xingyan's side, who was now asleep. The 2 small skeletons quietly watched their sleeping owner. They had never seen anyone sleep before, so they didn't understand why Shen Xingyan was in this state. They instinctively stood on either side of him, guarding him. When the alert icon above the wheat field lit up again, Wang Kai led the small skeletons back into the field. Shen Xingyan had already given them a clear command. Whenever an icon appeared above the wheat field, they should go to work there. However, after completing the task related to the Xingyuan icon and returning to Shen Xingyan, they found him still sleeping. This scene repeated several times. Finally, a gentle breeze from the Xingyuan world brushed Shen Xingyan's face, waking him up. Realizing he had fallen asleep, Shen Xingyan quickly opened his eyes. A flicker of panic crossed his face as he checked the time and saw that more than 3 hours had passed. He hurriedly stood up and checked the wheat field status. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel guilty. How could he have fallen asleep? He had just started to feel hopeful because of his powerful skills, but then he relaxed his self-control. How could that be? Fortunately, he saw a watering icon floating above the wheat field, and no other icons appeared at the same time. He finally let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that during his rest, the 2 small skeletons had been working according to his instructions. Fortunately, I had already given them basic commands earlier, or I might have lost a lot of coins during my sleep. Shen Xingyan secretly felt relieved. He moved his stiff body from sleeping and was about to join the work in the wheat field when he saw the icon disappear. The two small skeletons slowly appeared in his view. Looking at the two skeletons, which seemed to have crawled out of a mud pit, Shen Xingyan thought they looked cute and obedient. He gently wiped the mud off their skulls and felt happy. Although they are his summoned creatures and should follow his commands, Shen Xingyan didn't think that way. Maybe because they work hard without complaints, he thought of himself as a farmer. Or perhaps they have a mysterious connection with him, making him feel close to them. Work hard. Your owner won't mistreat you. When I have more money, I'll buy you some clothes, Shen Xingyan said with a light smile. Seeing the two skeletons with slight differences in their features, Shen Xingyan started to think. Since the skeletons look so similar, how should he tell them apart as their numbers grow? He also began to consider how to manage more small skeletons in the future. He couldn't just rush over and attack whenever he got a prompt. That method might work sometimes, but it would be too chaotic. Imagine hundreds of skeletons working together in 1 acre of land. How noisy and collision-prone it would be. As Shen Xingyan thought about this, he looked again at Wang Kai. This first small skeleton surprised him the most. Since it can help guide the new skeletons in their work, maybe it can also help manage their tasks. He thought this was a possible solution. If it doesn't work out, he could gradually figure out the best way. How many skeletons should work together on 1 acre for maximum efficiency, and then assign tasks manually. As his profession level increases, he can expand his land with money. When there are surplus skeletons, they will have more tasks to do. But for now, this is a backup plan. Wang Kai, from now on, this little skeleton will be under your care. You're the captain now, and you'll be in charge of maintaining this field. I'll also assign you more team members later. Do your best. Your future looks bright. Shen Xingyan patted Wang Kai's bony shoulder, giving him an important task. But seeing Wang Kai standing still, Shen Xingyan wasn't sure if it understood what he meant. He wasn't in a hurry, though. There were only 2 skeletons for now, so he decided to test things out first. If this method worked, he could let the little skeletons handle all the farm work. He would only need to visit the Star Source world each day to use 2 skills, and nothing more. That way, he would have time to train his real body in the real world. Ever since the appearance of the Star Source, almost everyone who successfully awakened would spend all their available time in that world before returning to reality. In the real world, apart from normal rest, they had little time left for physical training. For them, the longer they stayed in the Star Wish world, the faster they could level up, earn more money, and make it easier to bring items from that world into reality. Shen Xingyan, however, was different. As the number of skeletons increased, his role in the fields would become smaller. It would be better for him to focus on training his body in the real world. Although the results of real-world training couldn't compare to those of combat professionals who could quickly level up, earn money fast, and even bring their skills into reality, it was still something he could do for now. Since he couldn't rely much on combat skills, he had to depend on his own physical strength. Shen Xingyan couldn't help but imagine that one day, when he became wealthy enough, he might also be able to exchange expensive attribute points into the real world, just like those combat professionals, and finally fulfill his dream of fighting disasters outside. Thinking about his bright future made Shen Xingyan smile. He straightened up with renewed energy, just as a Star Source notification appeared above the wheat field. Shen Xingyan did not hesitate. He quickly took 2 small skeletons into the wheat field and began working step by step. His energy had recovered, and he was excited mentally, so he was full of motivation. Whenever the Star Source's prompt appeared, the 3 of them would quickly finish the task. As their efficiency increased, the Star Source seemed surprised by their progress, or perhaps the aftereffects of the previous 20% growth rate had lessened, making the prompts appear less often. Shen Xingyan gradually realized that he had some rare moments of rest, something he didn't have yesterday. During the break, he looked at the small skeletons and smiled softly. Having more workers made a big difference. Thanks to their efficient work, the wheat in the field grew better and better. The heads of wheat were getting larger, and if nothing major went wrong, the harvest would be very high. They worked in fits and starts, and Shen Xingyan's stay in the Star Source world was slowly coming to an end. Watching the countdown from the Star Source prompt, Shen Xingyan squatted down and gently tapped the heads of the 2 small skeletons, softly saying, "I need to leave for a while. I'll leave this acre of land in your hands." Wealthy. Even though you were summoned a day early, you're like an elder now. Take good care of the small skeletons." As he spoke, he couldn't help but laugh at himself. He secretly thought, even though he knew logically that they would follow his instructions, he didn't need to say so much. His words were like talking to the air, and the two small skeletons wouldn't respond. But he still couldn't help but remind them. Maybe it was related to his recent experience of guiding others. Shen Xingyan chuckled softly, shook his head slightly, then waved goodbye to Wealthy and the small skeletons. With a flicker of his mind, he disappeared from the Star Source world. Standing at the edge of the field, Wealthy and the small skeletons watched their master vanish into thin air. They slowly turned their skulls, seemingly instinctively searching for Shen Xingyan. Wealthy had experienced this yesterday. After searching in vain, it quickly stopped and faced the direction of the wheat field. The new little skeleton kept turning its head, searching in different directions. Although it could no longer sense Shen Xingyan's presence from that subtle connection, it didn't give up and continued to look blindly. Until a new alert icon appeared above the wheat field. Kai accurately followed Shen Xingyan's instructions and headed toward the wheat field. However, halfway there, he noticed the little skeleton still looking around randomly and not noticing the new alert icon. Kai slowly turned around and went back. Suddenly, he tapped the little skeleton's skull with a bang, causing the skeleton to stop and look in that direction. The little skeleton tilted its head slightly and looked at Kai. Kai then slowly pointed with his finger at the icon above the wheat field and turned to walk toward it. After being scolded by Kai, the little skeleton lowered its head and followed behind without resistance, as if it was intimidated by Kai's presence. Back in the real world, Shen Xingyan slowly opened his eyes as he did yesterday. But this time, he looked energetic and alert. Discovering a new talent skill today made Shen Xingyan very excited. Plus, sleeping in the Star Source world had the same refreshing effect as in reality. During the 3+ hours Shen Xingyan rested in the Star Source world, it was equivalent to real rest. Combining these factors, he now felt full of energy. After waking up, Shen Xingyan kept checking the information on his Star Source card, repeatedly confirming its accuracy. Finally, he looked happily at the ceiling, overwhelmed with joy. He couldn't help but want to shout to the world. Shen Xingyan was no longer the helpless farmer he used to be. Given time, he believed he could achieve great things and even shock all creatures, including those invading disasters. Fortunately, his rational mind suddenly appeared at this moment, suppressing these impulses. He took a deep breath and got up to start cooking. It was still early morning. To avoid waking his sister, he carefully prepared meals for both of them. After swallowing his portion, he returned to his room. Lying on the bed, he turned restlessly, unable to sleep. He decided to follow the physical exercises taught by the school, gently moving his body to exercise. During this time, whether immersed in the Star Source world or lost in sleep, people like Shen Xingyan who work out are very rare. It wasn't until dawn that Shen Xingyan finally stopped his exercise. 2 hours of training had taken a lot of his energy. He checked his Star Source card and saw his stamina had dropped to 4 points. Soon, he would enter a weak state. At this moment, he heard some faint sounds outside. Shen Xingyan knew his sister had woken up. He quickly changed out of his sweaty clothes and left the room. "Hey, brother, you're awake?" Shen Xingyan looked surprised to see her brother come out of his room at this time. Based on her guess, her brother probably came out of the Star Source world around 5 or 6 in the morning. That was the time when he was most sleepy, so he should still be sleeping now. "It's nothing. Hurry and eat. I've already prepared breakfast for you," Shen Xingyan said, ruffling her sister's hair with a loving smile. Shen Xingyan nodded happily and started eating her breakfast without suspicion. She hadn't seen her brother for 2 days. Seeing him and talking a few words before school made her very happy. "Brother, what is the Star Source world really like? I heard it's much livelier than here, just as prosperous as before the disaster," Shen Xingyan asked curiously while eating, her eyes full of longing. Shen Xingyan heated 2 steamed buns for himself. As he ate, he shared his first impressions. Although he had mostly spent the past 2 days in the professional space, it didn't stop him from sharing the peaceful street scene with his sister. Listening to her brother's description, Shen Xingyan's eyes grew brighter. Although such growth may seem insignificant to battle professionals, for him, who is full of hope, every improvement is a happy event. Continuously training, Shen Xingyan seemed to forget about time, fully immersed in his practice, just like when he was at school. The only difference was that due to limited space and facilities, the training wasn't as effective as at school. The training lasted until near noon, and Shen Xingyan's spirit began to fade, and his stamina dropped significantly. At this point, only sleep could restore his mental energy. Feeling tired, Shen Xingyan took a deep breath, ready to cook some food to prepare his strength for today's Star Source journey. After all, his consciousness entered the Star Source world, but his body remained in the real world. This journey lasted 12 hours, and he could replenish his mental energy through rest in the Star Source. However, to maintain his physical strength in reality, he had to return to the real world to recover. He heard that some advanced alchemy products and medicines could slowly restore stamina over time, balancing consumption and replenishment. But their high prices were beyond what Shen Xingyan could afford at this stage, so he didn't consider them. On his way to the kitchen, Shen Xingyan suddenly felt his Star Source card vibrate. Curious, he picked it up and saw that the screen displayed a picture of Chu Wei. As Shen Xingyan's gaze fixed on the picture, a prompt from the Star Source card sounded in his ear. Chu Wei requests a call. Do you accept? At this moment, Shen Xingyan remembered that the Star Source card had calling functions. Using this small card for a call for the first time, Shen Xingyan felt a wave of novelty. Before awakening, Shen Xingyan's life was mostly routine, rarely needing to use the calling feature. He only knew about calling through a card from his teacher's explanations and occasional communication among awakeners, but he had never used it himself. After connecting mentally, Chu Wei's lively voice appeared. Shen Xingyan, long time no see. How have you been lately? Just 2 days apart. How is that long? Shen Xingyan couldn't help but smile at Chu Wei's exaggerated words, then responded, I'm doing well recently. How about you? Haha, it's been so long since we last met. It really has been a while. I just reached level 2 yesterday, so all my attributes increased by 1 point, and I have 2 free attribute points. I spent them all on mental strength, so now my mental attribute is 14. The cooldown times for my skills have also decreased a bit. However, extracting skills and attribute points into the real world is very expensive. The equipment, materials, and money I've gained from killing monsters these past few days aren't even enough to fill a gap. Chu Wei seemed to open up like a chatterbox, talking nonstop about her experiences over the past 2 days. She told everything to Shen Xingyan all at once, as if she finally found someone to share with, needing to relieve her worries. Shen Xingyan listened quietly, occasionally analyzing her situation and giving small suggestions, just like when they were at school. The difference was that back then they talked face to face. Now, they were communicating through a card. Shen Xingyan, why do I feel like you've become much calmer, more steady than before? Chu Wei said while sharing her stories and observing Shen Xingyan's reactions. She started this call mainly to chat with Shen Xingyan and share her recent experiences. But more importantly, she cared about how Shen Xingyan was doing lately, because no one knew better than her how determined he was to become a combat professional. After hearing her talk so much about combat professions, Shen Xingyan noticed that he didn't see much emotional fluctuation from her, as if she had truly come to terms with it. This eased his worries, which had been growing. Seeing her return to her usual self made her very happy. Shen Xingyan also sensed her genuine concern in her words and replied softly, after going through some things, you grow. That's just how it is. People need to look forward. He didn't say much more, as his secrets couldn't be revealed to anyone, not even his sister. The consequences would be too great. Not telling them was also a way to protect them. Chu Wei nodded firmly and said with a relaxed smile, that's the Shen Xingyan I know. Seeing you like this makes me feel at ease. They agreed to meet again during the trial in a month, and then the call ended. Through this conversation, Shen Xingyan truly understood how terrifying the combat profession can be. Even with such strong skills, I still can't keep up with the speed of leveling up in combat professions, let alone ordinary life professions. Combat professionals can level up every 2 days, while planting the lowest level seeds takes at least 9 days to produce a harvest. Moreover, after harvesting, it doesn't always lead to a level increase. The Star Source evaluates the final output's value to determine the experience points awarded. Compared to this, the gap is huge. In 9 days, others might already be at level 3 or 4, and their attributes are far superior. The difference between life and combat professions is very clear. Shen Xingyan couldn't help but sigh internally, but when he thought of his two powerful skills, his initial feelings of regret vanished instantly. Be content. I already have such amazing skills, so I shouldn't think about other things. Focusing on farming and improving myself is the right way, Shen Xingyan quietly told himself. He quickly prepared some food, ate until his hungry stomach was satisfied, then went back to his room and lay on the bed. He set the time to enter the Star Source world and decided to rest for a while to recover his energy. However, when he habitually placed the Star Source card on his forehead, he suddenly noticed a change in his attributes. Name: Spark Igniting the Wilderness, Shen Xingyan. ID: 1181204319527. Profession: Farmer. Professional skills: 1. Consumes a certain amount of original energy points to increase the growth progress of crops within a specified range by 10%. The larger the range, the more original energy points are consumed. Cooldown is 10 hours, and the skill has a 24-hour cooldown. Strength: 10 points. Agility: 10 points. Constitution: 11 points. Spirit: 10 points. Health: 110 to 110 points. Energy: 18 points. Stamina: 8 out of 11 points. Physical attack: 10 points. Magical attack: 10 points. Defense: 11 points. Speed: 10 points. Talent: Summon skeleton: summon a skeleton monster with all attributes at 1 for battle. Cooldown: 24 hours. Money: 0 gold, 0 silver, 6 copper. Star Source World Entrance. 3-hour countdown. Shen Xingyan was about to close his eyes, but suddenly opened them. Sharply, he checked his attributes again and confirmed that it was not a mistake. His physical constitution had indeed increased slightly. Wow, my constitution has really gone up a bit. It seems the training over the past 2 days has been effective. The teachers said that before awakening, you need to build up strength gradually, and improving yourself quickly is really possible. Shen Xingyan felt a small surge of excitement. Although the increase was just a tiny bit, compared to Chu Wei, who gained 6 points per level, it seemed insignificant. But for Shen Xingyan at this stage, this small increase in attributes was enough to show him the value of exercising in the real world. That was already enough. There are few things in this world that reward effort, and exercising is one of them. Shen Xingyan had known this truth for a long time, and it was a major internal motivation that kept him at the top of his school rankings. According to the knowledge he learned from school, the attributes he improved through real-world training are synchronized with the Star Source world. This means his physical constitution in the Star Source world has also increased to 11 points. However, using money to transfer attributes from the Star Source world to the real world does not have this effect. 11 points remain 11 points. When he levels up in the Star Source world, to keep his real-world attributes consistent, he can only do so by paying money to extract those attributes. After a burst of excitement, the long-standing drowsiness suddenly hit him like a fierce storm. Within seconds, Shen Xingyan's room fell into silence. At this moment, only the sound of his steady breathing and the ticking of the clock could be heard, with no other sounds present. Currently, in the Star Source space, inside Shen Xingyan's planting area, 2 small skeletons are at one end of the wheat field. They are looking quietly at the sky above the wheat, waiting for a new Star Source indicator to appear. Unlike the small skeletons, Wang Kai is not standing stiffly and staring at the sky without moving. Instead, he occasionally glances around. The whole skeleton is sitting on the ground. The difference in posture makes it seem like Wang Kai is smarter than the other skeletons. However, if you look carefully, you will notice that Wang Cai's sitting posture looks strange, as if he is deliberately imitating others, with a hint of trying to imitate. This state lasts for a while until a new prompt icon appears again in the sky above the wheat field. Only then does Wang Kai stand up and walk toward the wheat field. The small skeletons slowly follow behind him, showing no desire to move ahead. 3 hours later, Shen Xingyan is awakened by an alarm clock. Still a bit sleepy, he forces himself to wake up, gets out of bed, and goes to the kitchen to eat a steamed bun. He quickly lies back on the bed, places the Star Source card on his forehead, and connects his mind to the black card. Once again, he enters the Star Source world. When Shen Xingyan opens his eyes again, he finds himself in his planting space. As Shen Xingyan appears, Wang Kai and the small skeletons tremble slightly, as if they are startled by something. However, they do not notice anything unusual unconsciously. Through a subtle connection, they sense Shen Xingyan's presence and immediately put down their farming work, moving toward him. This time, Shen Xingyan is not frightened away like yesterday by the movement of the two skeletons. Instead, he looks at the two small skeletons approaching him, their bodies marked with signs of hard work, and nods with satisfaction. He looks up at the wheat field, which now looks very different, and feels very happy. When the two skeletons reach his side, Shen Xingyan asks them to stand next to him. Then he directly uses his special skill, Summon Skeleton. After a more familiar chant, a third small skeleton appears in his space. The third skeleton in front of him was a bit different from the first two. If the Wang Sai and the second small skeleton were both rusty and old-looking, this one appeared cleaner and slightly sturdier. Shen Xingyan's eyes lit up as he checked its attributes. However, after looking at its stats, he wasn't surprised at all. It still had only 1 point in all attributes. This slight disappointment dampened his hope for a miracle, making him feel like he had been splashed with cold water. Wow, I really am never satisfied. I've already used 2 incredible skills, and now I'm still hoping for more good luck. That's just too greedy. Shen Xingyan sighed and shook his head, deeply judging his subconscious thoughts. Wang Sai, from now on, this little skeleton will be your teammate. Take good care of it, he said softly, patting Wang Sai's skull with a smile. Then he handed the skeleton to Wang Sai and told him to work while training the new skeleton on farming. Looking at the icon above the farmland, Shen Xingyan and his team quickly eliminated all the prompts. His skill cooldown was also finished. Standing in the middle of the wheat field, Shen Xingyan silently activated his skill. He felt the familiar flow of energy moving through his body, and his equipped staff emitted a strange wave. Instantly, the entire wheat field was covered in this energy. Congratulations! You have successfully used your farming skill. Farmer Experience 1. The crops, which could now be called wheat, began to swell rapidly at the top of each stalk, and the shape of the grain started to appear. Carefully, Shen Xingyan noticed that each wheat ear had nearly twice as many grains as shown in the books. This discovery made a smile grow wider on his face. It meant that the harvest in 2 days would be much higher than the maximum yield recorded in the books. How could he not feel happy about that? Gently touching the surrounding wheat and looking at this acre of hope-filled harvest, each stalk seemed to be showing Shen Xingyan its uniqueness and thanking him for his care. This made him feel a strong sense of achievement. His tired mind and body instantly filled with energy. As he used his skills, the indicator icons for the game started appearing quickly. Shen Xingyan was calm, leading 3 skeletons to handle what seemed like harmless prompts. For workers caring for 1 acre of land greatly increased efficiency. The prompts from the game often appeared just after being resolved, so every few minutes, the hints would update again. This continued for nearly 2 hours. Shen Xingyan clearly felt the prompts slowing down. After another hour, he no longer needed to pay attention because new hints took a while to appear. At this point, Shen Xingyan left the wheat field, lay down at one end, closed his eyes gently, and fell asleep. The wheat field was left entirely to Wang Kai and the others. The speed of prompts was now manageable for them. They even had time to stand beside Shen Xingyan for a while, seemingly protecting him instinctively. If it weren't for Shen Xingyan's commands, they might have stayed close to him out of their natural instincts. Time moved slowly and didn't pause for anyone. 2 days passed quietly until the 6th day after planting wheat, which was also Shen Xingyan's harvest day. By the 4th day, with the appearance of the 4th small skeleton, maintaining the wheat plot no longer required Shen Xingyan's involvement. The 4 skeletons could handle everything on their own. Shen Xingyan also started having plenty of free time. His schedule was now more flexible, so he began to plan his daily routine again. On the 4th and 5th days, he used his skills in the game space, then went to sleep. After sleeping for 7 hours in the game world and restoring his energy, Shen Xingyan would return to the real world to exercise and strengthen his body. Encouraged by his previous attribute boosts, he became very eager to improve himself through real-world training. This was now his only way to get stronger, without any resources accumulated. Even though his professional level increased and granted him attribute points, he didn't have the financial means to transfer the properties from the Star Source world to the real world. At least, this idea was not feasible at this stage. After 2 days of training, Shen Xingyan's attributes did not show any surprises like on the third day. His physical attribute remained at 11, and there was no change in other areas. He thought that the small increase in attributes before might have been the result of pre-awakening accumulation. Although this outcome disappointed Shen Xingyan a little, it didn't stop him from continuing to train. After each workout, he felt a faint sense of growth in his body. It was very subtle, but it was definitely there. He was sure this feeling was real. Even though it wasn't reflected in his attribute points yet, he believed that with long-term effort, he would eventually see satisfying results. However, there was one problem that gave Shen Xingyan a headache. Because he had increased his training time these past 2 days, his food consumption also went up. Now he was running out of food. Looking at the little food left in the kitchen, Shen Xingyan truly understood the saying that a penny is hard to come by for a hero. Fortunately, today was the day of harvest. Based on the wheat growth he observed yesterday, each full ear of wheat was supported by sturdy stalks. Without them, the wheat would have fallen long ago. He was full of hope for the yield of this acre of wheat. Even while sleeping and training, he kept thinking about it. As the harvest time approached in just a few minutes, Shen Xingyan cleaned up the last of the food in the kitchen and hurried back to his room. He connected to the Star Source card and entered the Star Source world. When Shen Xingyan opened his eyes again, he found himself in the familiar professional space, with no surprises. His gaze naturally fell on the golden wheat field in front of him. It looked like a bountiful harvest, enough to amaze anyone who saw it. This scene was completely different from their usual impression of a wheat field. In comparison, it was on a different level altogether. If a farmer with a professional skill tried to compare his wheat field to others, the result would be obvious. They would only feel envy and tears of longing. With Shen Xingyan's appearance, 6 small skeletons also appeared around him. From their positions, the closest to Shen Xingyan was naturally Captain Wang Kai, while the other 5 skeletons stood slightly further back. At this moment, Shen Xingyan's talent skills and profession skills were still cooling down, so he didn't use 2 skills as he usually would. Instead, he gently touched Wang Kai's skull and quietly waited for the prompt that the wheat was ripe. As time gradually passed, Shen Xingyan, feeling a bit anxious, stepped forward to check the current situation of the wheat. The world of Xingyuan didn't keep Shen Xingyan waiting for long. As the wheat field entered the ripening stage, a prompt sounded in his ear. "Congratulations! Your first crop has ripened. You have been rewarded with a sickle. Please harvest quickly. Xingyuan will reward you with experience points based on your final yield." This mechanical-sounding prompt was like a divine voice to Shen Xingyan at this moment. He, who was crouching to examine the wheat, suddenly stood up. His eyes naturally focused on the icon above the wheat field, indicating that harvest was possible. Finally, it's time. Shen Xingyan clenched his fists excitedly. Looking at the constantly moving icon that seemed to be urging him to harvest, he quickly took the sickle from his backpack, a reward from Xingyuan, and checked its attributes. Item: sickle attributes. Attack 1, no level requirement, no durability limit, an essential tool for farmers. Its attributes were similar to the hoe he had received before, just with a different shape. Both could be treasured heirlooms. Shen Xingyan was eager to start harvesting, but suddenly remembered his trusted skeletons. He turned around and saw them looking up at him. They seemed confused about the unfamiliar icon, swinging their skulls as if unsure how to follow Shen Xingyan's previous instructions. Shen Xingyan couldn't help but slap his forehead. Since this harvest icon was new, even Wang Kai didn't know how to handle it, let alone the other skeletons. He looked at the 5 small skeletons in front of him, but in his hand, he only had 1 sickle. He wanted to equip each skeleton with 1, but unfortunately, his limited funds made that impossible. The Star Source Mall does sell sickles, but the cheapest one costs 10 copper coins, which Shen Xingyan cannot afford right now. Feeling helpless, Shen Xingyan had no choice but to let them pick the wheat by hand and gather it in one spot, waiting for himself to handle it. Although this method is a bit slow, there was no other way. However, one good thing about the Star World is that Shen Xingyan finds very thoughtful. There's no need to thresh the wheat after harvesting, as in the real world. Instead, he can use his mind to store the crops directly into his backpack, and they will automatically be separated according to his wishes. For example, after storing wheat in the backpack, it can be split into wheat and straw. This feature is very friendly for farmers, saving them a lot of time. With Shen Xingyan giving the command, the harvest of this 1-acre wheat field officially begins. Shen Xingyan naturally takes the lead, rushing into the wheat field with a sickle. He harvests the wheat while using his mind to put it into his space backpack. This method greatly improves his efficiency. Compared to Shen Xingyan's swift and determined actions, the 6 small skeletons' harvesting process is a bit bumpy. Because their attributes are all at level 1, their movements are slow. Plus, they are inexperienced, so the total wheat they harvest is just slightly more than what Shen Xingyan collects. But as they become more skilled, their efficiency gradually improves. They become more comfortable with the task, and it looks like they are about to get into the rhythm. Suddenly, they stop. This small acre of land has been completely harvested by the 7 workers in such a short time. Shen Xingyan was about to put the wheat the skeletons collected into his space backpack when he suddenly heard a prompt from the star source. Congratulations! You have completed your first crop harvesting task. You receive a storage space. The beginner planting guide has ended. Please work hard to start your career upgrade journey. As the prompt finished, a small house-shaped building appeared quietly at the edge of Shen Xingyan's space. Before he could check its properties, a second prompt from the star source began to sound. Congratulations! You have planted 600 square meters of wheat, with a harvest of 1,800 kilograms, earning 180 points of farmer experience. This number made Shen Xingyan stand frozen in place. This small 1-acre plot produced a full 1,800 kilograms of wheat. Although he had expected a high yield this time, he never imagined it would be so large. Normally, an ordinary farmer working hard for 10 days might harvest about 500 to 600 kilograms. Higher-level farmers might reach around 800 or 900 kilograms, but his current yield is more than double that of those advanced farmers. And compared to farmers of the same level as him, the difference is even greater, roughly 3 times more. Such a result is so incredible that Shen Xingyan doubts anyone would believe it if he told them. It's truly hard to believe. He instinctively converted the wheat into equivalent copper coins. Selling 1 kilogram of wheat at Star Source Mall earns him 2 copper coins. So 1,800 kilograms would be 3,600 copper coins, which is about 360 yuan before the energy burst. Earning 3,600 copper coins in 5 days means an average of 720 coins per day. Such an earning rate is probably close to that of ordinary combat professionals. Shen Xingyan thought to himself. But before he could fully marvel at this huge amount of money, a new notification suddenly appeared in the Star Source world. Congratulations! You have greatly broken the previous record of 1,116 kilograms per acre of wheat, successfully reaching 1,800 kilograms. As a reward, you are granted an additional 1,800 square meters of farmland, a permanent seed purchase discount of 30%, and an announcement will be made across the entire zone. Would you like to make this information public? This message stunned Shen Xingyan. An extra 1,800 square meters is equivalent to about 3 acres of land. According to the records, its value would be around 300 gold coins. 300 gold coins. That's enough to extract 30 attribute points into reality. Such a large reward made Shen Xingyan feel dizzy with excitement. Star Source World has truly been generous this time. Furthermore, land can only be purchased from the Star Source Mall after reaching level 10. Even if the family has enough money, if the level requirement is not met, buying land will cost much more. New players like Shen Xingyan, who own such large amounts of land at this stage, are extremely rare in the entire Star Source world. The second reward, a 30% discount on seeds, may seem small now, but it is a real money-saving benefit for Shen Xingyan. As he levels up in the future, he will be able to buy more expensive seeds, making the discount even more valuable. Would you like to make your information public? The Star Source prompt sounded again. Shen Xingyan, who was a bit dizzy from the rewards, quickly chose not to share his information. He thought, it's better not to let others know about him. If they find out, he might end up with nothing. This is not an exaggeration. There are many good people in the world, but one bad person can cause much more harm than 100 good ones. After Shen Xingyan made his choice, the Star Source space started to ring with notification sounds. A certain professional has broken the previous wheat yield record of 1,116 kilograms per acre, reaching 1,800 kilograms. As a reward, the farmland area increases by 1,800 square meters, and there is a 30% discount on permanent seed purchases. This is now announced across the region. This message echoed 3 times before stopping. After the notifications ended, the Star Source world seemed to fall into a brief silence. Who is that old guy who's not planting high-level seeds and is messing around with level 1 seeds? He really managed to do that, said an old man dressed plainly, carefully tending his farm while muttering with a look of disdain. That's impossible. No one could achieve such a high yield. How could someone produce such a large harvest after so many sleepless nights? I don't believe it, said a middle-aged man, looking at the Star Source sky with disbelief. It's been a long time since the farmer profession was announced across the region. It's really rare. It's interesting to see a living profession like this. I've learned something new. People reacted differently to this announcement. Some refused to believe it, some looked curious, and others complained, among many other responses. Most, however, seemed indifferent. Although it was a district-wide notice, it only targeted the worst profession in their society. They saw it as a fleeting trend and didn't think it was worth paying attention to. After hearing the announcement, Shen Xingyan secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The notice didn't mention his information at all, which made him feel safe, yet he also felt a bit excited. This feeling of being the only one aware while everyone else is unaware, he found it quite enjoyable. With the district-wide announcement from the Star Source world, the land in front of Shen Xingyan began to expand rapidly, centered around the well rewarded by the Star Source world. It quickly grew beyond his current position. Because of the increased farmland, the planting space also expanded outward. Once the land expansion was complete, Shen Xingyan looked at the vast fields and smiled foolishly. It felt like a lucky break, like a pie falling from the sky and hitting him perfectly. Other people would probably be happy for a long time if they experienced this. The roots of the small wheat patch he had left earlier had disappeared after his harvest. He also noticed that the 4 acres of farmland seemed to have been reorganized and now met the standards for planting without needing further plowing. The soil color had become much darker. The books had mentioned that as farmland increases, the soil quality improves and becomes more fertile. Shen Xingyan slowly bent down, picked up a handful of soil, and quietly felt it. He began to accept this generous gift from the Star Source world. Walking over to the wheat collected by Wang Kai and the others, he moved his mind, and the small mountain of wheat suddenly was absorbed into his backpack. He separated the wheat grains from the stalks, which appeared in 2 different compartments inside his backpack. Looking at the harvest in these 2 slots, Shen Xingyan felt satisfied and checked the properties of the wheat grains. Item: wheat, premium, value: 6 copper coins quantity, 1,800 attributes, a material used for making food. Originally, Shen Xingyan just wanted to admire the number 1,800. However, when he saw the word high quality after the wheat description, his eyes immediately widened. It is known that items with a suffix in their name are usually above average in quality. In the Star Source world, materials and equipment are divided into 4 main quality levels: common, high quality, excellent, and perfect. There are also intermediate levels like high quality dash, high quality, excellent dash, excellent, and perfect dash, which together form the quality system of the Star Source world. Now, Shen Xingyan's wheat has reached the high quality level, making it worth 3 times more than ordinary wheat. Its price has reached 6 copper coins per kilogram, which Shen Xingyan never expected. With this calculation, the total earnings could reach as much as 10,800 copper coins. The final price made Shen Xingyan's eyes widen in surprise. Is it really that easy to earn over 10,000 coins? When did making money become so simple? Shen Xingyan thought with disbelief. And this is only the beginner level. When his level increases in the future, his skills become stronger, and with the powerful skeleton team, the speed of earning money might become even faster. Shen Xingyan already had an answer in his mind. The huge surprise made him take a deep breath, calming his inner excitement. Then he checked the properties of the straw. Item: straw, high quality. Value: 1 copper coin quantity, 800 attribute, a basic material. Looking at the description, Shen Xingyan was surprised that high-quality straw could also be sold for money. He had never thought about this before. He only heard that straw was useless and worthless, never considering its quality. This was a small but pleasant surprise. Next, Shen Xingyan moved to the edge of the warehouse and checked its properties. Item: warehouse size. 8 by 15 slots, a simple yet powerful description. With 120 slots, Shen Xingyan wondered whether he would ever fill such a large space in the future. Looking at the empty warehouse, Shen Xingyan separated 100 kilograms of wheat and placed it in the first compartment, which is considered stored grain to bring good luck. Then he opened the Star Source Mall and sold all the remaining wheat and straw. He earned 11,000 copper coins. At this moment, his backpack's bottom right corner showed 11 silver coins. Shen Xingyan admired the nice number, then opened his status panel. He saw that his experience had reached 186 points. He gained 180 points from harvesting 1,800 kilograms of wheat, plus 5 points from 5 uses of his profession skills. The remaining 1 point came from his awakening. His experience was now far beyond the 100 points needed to level up. He reached the level up standard on his first planting. Shen Xingyan had never heard of others doing this, so he didn't know if he was the first. Looking at the upgrade indicator next to his experience in the panel, Shen Xingyan knew the moment he had been waiting for was here. Many professionals fought day and night just for this moment. He took a deep breath, focused his mind, and clicked the upgrade button. Congratulations! Your profession level has increased to level 2. You receive 1 to all attributes, 2 free attribute points, and a 1% reduction in skill cooldown time. Keep up the good work and continue to improve. As the prompt appeared, Shen Xingyan felt a shiver run through his body, then quickly calmed down. He gently moved his body, and a faint click sound was heard. Shen Xingyan felt much more comfortable all over. When he opened his status panel again, it looked completely different. Name: Spark Igniting the World, Shen Xingyan. ID: 1181204319527. Profession: Farmer. Profession skills: 1. Consume a certain amount of energy points to increase the growth progress of crops within a specified range by 10%. The larger the range, the more energy points are used. Cooldown is 24 hours, with a 1% reduction every 10 hours. Level: 2. Experience: 86 out of 200 strength, 11 points agility, 11 points constitution, 12 points spirit, 11 points free attribute points, 2 health, 120 energy, 18 stamina, 12 physical attack, 11 magic attack, 11 defense, 12 speed, 11 talent. Summon skeleton. Summon a skeleton monster with all attributes at 1 for battle. Cooldown 24 hours. Money: 0 gold, 11 silver, 0 copper. As the level increases, only energy and talent skills do not improve, while the 4 main attributes each gain 1 point. Energy can only be increased using free attribute points or after unlocking the mental technique at level 10. The talent is said to only be improved through rare items, including the 2 free attribute points. This level up grants a total of 6 attribute points, which is much faster than training physically in the real world. Shen Xingyan thought, no wonder people are so eager to improve themselves in the Star Source world. Shen Xingyan looked at the attribute points gained from leveling up in the Star Source world and couldn't help but feel amazed. This feeling is truly addictive. With all 4 main attributes increased by 1 point, strength, agility, and spirit reaching 11 points, and constitution increasing to 12 points due to his real-world training, the feedback from the Star Source world is very clear. If Shen Xingyan had 60 gold coins now, he could convert all 6 attribute points into the real world, which would be more than what he could achieve through hard training over a long time. He shook his head with a sigh, then stopped thinking about it. Currently, although he earns money faster than most combat professions, there's still a long way to go before he can transfer attribute points to the real world. It's not something urgent. He then looked at the skill with the cooldown reduction of 1%, which he expected. The improvement isn't very big. After all, it's just a small level increase now. When he reaches level 10, there should be a much bigger boost. Looking at the attribute panel, the 2 free attribute points gained from leveling up had not yet been allocated, but Shen Xingyan was still hesitant to act. His original plan was to add these points to his stamina attribute, which would increase his physical strength and allow him to work longer on farm chores and sustain himself longer. However, the 3 acres of farmland rewarded by the star source made him hesitant about how to distribute his points. His gaze naturally fell on his original energy attribute. Based on previous experience, using a professional skill on 1 acre of land consumes 5 original energy points. Now that he had 4 acres, he would need 20 points to fully activate the skill perfectly. But he only had 18 original energy points, which was not enough. This would waste land resources and prevent him from managing all 4 acres efficiently. The only solution was to increase his maximum original energy. There are 4 ways to increase the maximum original energy, as explained in school. 1. It increases automatically over time, roughly 1 point per year, and this increase happens in both the star source world and the real world, making it the most basic method. 2. When a profession reaches level 10, the star source grants an increase in maximum original energy. Each level after 10 also grants a boost, but this only happens in the star source world. In the real world, increasing it requires spending money. 3. Buying rare treasures in the star source shop, or obtaining them by killing monsters or through star source rewards, which can boost the maximum original energy. 4. Adding free attribute points to the original energy attribute to increase its maximum. Currently, Shen Xingyan was considering the 4th method. His hesitation was mainly due to his profession. Because farmers rely less on original energy, due to their skills having very long cooldowns, they don't depend on it as much as combat professions do. This is true in both the star source world and the real world. If it weren't for the 3 acres of land rewarded by the star source, Shen Xingyan wouldn't even be thinking about this. However, in the foreseeable future, he probably wouldn't lack gold coins. It would be more practical to transfer attributes to the real world than to increase original energy in the real world. After weighing his options, Shen Xingyan finally decided to add his free attribute points to his original energy. He felt it was better to focus on the present rather than risk losing potential future benefits. Even if he lost some points, at most 2, he could improve them through real-world training. He could handle that. Shen Xingyan made up his mind and no longer hesitated. He clicked twice on the plus sign next to his original energy, increasing it from 18/18ths to 20/20ths. Once he finished allocating his attribute points, Shen Xingyan didn't delay. He quickly opened the star source shop and looked for level 1 seeds. All the level 1 seeds were displayed in front of him: carrots, white radishes, cabbages, and wheat. Looking at these 4 types of seeds, Shen Xingyan chose wheat without any hesitation. Wheat takes the longest to grow among the 4, and the value it produces after harvest is the highest. The other 3 vegetables, carrots, white radishes, and cabbages, only take about 3 days to grow. They can't fully utilize Shen Xingyan's professional skills, and using them to break records in the star source world would be very difficult. Moreover, advanced farmers with their high planting speed and longer stay in the star source world make it unlikely for Shen Xingyan to surpass their records using these short-term crops. Plus, Wonkai and the little skeletons are used to growing wheat, so there's no need to switch to other seeds for now. Shen Xingyan selected the seeds for the 4 acres of land and clicked to buy. He was surprised to see the cost was 280 copper coins, even with a 30% discount. If the star source hadn't given me some wheat seeds at the start, I probably couldn't even afford to buy seeds. Shen Xingyan sighed and shook his head. He then searched for tools like a hoe and a sickle. Item: hoe attributes: attack 1 durability, 10 tenths value, 10 copper coins, an essential tool for farmers. Item: sickle attributes: attack 1 durability, 10 tenths value, 10 copper coins, another necessary tool for farmers. Looking at the inexpensive hoes and sickles, Shen Xingyan bought 15 of each, spending 300 copper coins. He planned to give them to the little skeletons for use, with the extra tools kept for later. Although these tools are not as durable as his own set, which has no durability limit, they are not too expensive for Shen Xingyan now. He distributed the hoes and seeds to Wonkai and the other skeletons. Shen Xingyan and Wonkai then began teaching the other 4 skeletons how to plant seeds. Whether they had already gotten used to farming or not, the teaching went very smoothly this time. Within 2 minutes, the 4 new skeletons started working properly, and the 4-acre planting project officially began. With the 7 workers, including Shen Xingyan, working together, It took nearly 2 hours to complete planting wheat on 4 acres. Shen Xingyan bought 20 buckets from the Star Source shop for 100 copper coins, placing them near the water well for the little skeletons to use later. In less than 10 minutes, all the farmland was irrigated with everyone working at the same time. Then Shen Xingyan went to the water well, took out his beginner's staff, selected the entire farmland as his target, and activated his profession skill. As all the primal energy inside his body surged and flowed, Shen Xingyan felt the fluctuations more clearly than before, gaining some insights. Unfortunately, he is not a combat profession. If he had this kind of insight, he might deal more damage when fighting monsters. Congratulations! You have successfully used your profession skill. Farmer Experience 1. A prompt from the Star Source appeared as Shen Xingyan finished casting. The wheat seeds on the 4 acres of land began to grow rapidly, like bamboo shoots after rain. The scene was spectacular, completely different from when it was just 1 acre before. Standing in the middle of the field, Shen Xingyan felt as if the entire world was moving quickly before his eyes. The passage of time became clearer in his perception, and a sense of life surrounded him. This feeling only faded gradually once the wheat stopped growing. Following this, a maintenance reminder for the Star Source world appeared. The work on the 4-acre wheat field was 4 times more demanding than before. The 6 small skeletons couldn't handle it all, so Shen Xingyan had to step in himself and join the effort to eliminate the reminders. After finishing one maintenance task, Shen Xingyan saw that it was getting late, and his sister would soon finish school. He quickly bought enough food for 4 days from the Star Source Mall. After all, the last bit of food at home had been used up. The kitchen was now so empty that even mice wouldn't dare to stay. He needed to restock quickly, but he couldn't buy too much, worried that the difference between the real world and the Star Source world would make his sister suspicious. Since it was only the 6th day, and in a normal cycle, he should be harvesting on the 10th day to be considered normal. Looking at the food in his backpack, which was easy to explain, Shen Xingyan thought, notification. To extract an item worth 20 copper coins, it will cost 180 copper coins. Do you want to proceed? Sure enough, including the cost of buying food, the value of real-world items was about 10 times that of the Star Source world. After clicking confirm, the food disappeared from his backpack. Shen Xingyan then returned to the real world. His consciousness came back, and before he opened his eyes, the Star Source card on his forehead prompted him that the items he had extracted were stored in the card and could be retrieved at any time. He stood up from the bed, silently thought, retrieve, and the food he had bought from the Star Source Mall appeared in his hands out of nowhere. Experiencing this for the first time, Shen Xingyan found it quite strange. It felt like magic to see such things happen in real life. After the novelty wore off, he didn't delay any longer, as there were still tasks waiting for him in the professional space. He quickly prepared a meal for his sister and then returned to the professional space. Seeing the diligent skeletons like Wonkai still working hard, Shen Xingyan smiled with satisfaction and joined in the work. Repetitive tasks played out in the farmer's professional space. This work helped Shen Xingyan, who had just gained a lot of money, feel calmer. He kept glancing at the nearly 10 silver coins in his backpack, hopeful. If 1 acre could produce this much, then with proper care, the 4 acres might yield even more than he expected. Shen Xingyan works with hope in his professional space. Compared to his peaceful environment, Chu Wei's 5-person battle team is currently in a very intense fight. They have to be very careful when killing monsters, afraid of making a mistake and getting a penalty that prevents login for a day. Fortunately, Chu Wei, a strong fire mage, provides fire support from behind. Without her, it would take a lot more time to kill a wild monster. After the team works together to kill a level 4 wild monster, Chu Wei tells her teammates to loot the corpse, while she takes out a potion to restore her energy. In their small team, Chu Wei's equipment and weapons are top quality, making her the leader. They need to adjust their plans based on their current state. Killing the level 4 monster just now used up all her energy. She drinks the potion while keeping an eye on her surroundings, watching for any potential dangers. In the wild, monsters are their targets, but they are also prey for monsters. They must always pay attention to the movements of nearby monsters to avoid trouble. Seeing that no low-level monsters are approaching, Chu Wei relaxes. As she relaxes, her mind begins to think about Shen Xingyan's situation. She sighs softly. Their family's food supplies are probably almost gone, and the base has stopped providing for the awakeners. What should he do? With his stubborn personality, if she tries to help him, he will definitely refuse. There's no other option but to find a breakthrough through Xiaoying. Thinking of this, Chu Wei shakes her head helplessly. Goods sold. Goods sold. This item can sell for 3 silver coins at Xingyuan Mall. If sold privately, it might fetch even more. Today's luck is good, her teammate exclaims excitedly, showing clear joy. Although gaining experience is the main goal of killing monsters, looting after each kill is like opening a blind box, adding some fun to their tense rhythm. Hearing this, Chu Wei also stands up to see what kind of item it is, curious about what has caused such excitement. She walks over and sees it's a top-quality level 3 shirt. It's not much different from the one she's wearing. If sold privately, it's definitely worth some money. Boss, how do you want to distribute this equipment? The knight in the 5-person team asked Chu Wei, then handed over his shirt. Chu Wei didn't take it but said directly, let's stick to the usual rule. Go back, buy something to exchange for money, and split it evenly. You can keep it for now. Seeing that her energy was almost fully restored, Chu Wei led the team to look for the next target. While lively and enthusiastic in front of Shen Xingyan, Chu Wei now looked cold and distant, with a strikingly elegant aura that seemed like a protective shield, blocking out all negative outside influences. Inside her professional space, Shen Xingyan was exhausted and sitting on the ground to recover his strength. He bought 3 buns from the Star Source Mall and ate them. These buns restore energy faster than bread, but they are more expensive. Still, Shen Xingyan bought them without hesitation, fully paying the price. In the wheat field, led by Wang Kai, all the skeletons worked in their own areas. Shen Xingyan looked at Wang Kai with satisfaction. He thought Wang Kai seemed to have leadership potential. Although it followed his commands, it performed so well that it was impressive. In Shen Xingyan's eyes, the small skeletons with their white bones looked increasingly adorable. Time always flies when busy. Shen Xingyan worked hard in the wheat field, and before he knew it, his stay in Star Source was almost at its limit. The frequency of prompts from Star Source also started to slow down. Seeing this, Shen Xingyan, exhausted and panting, finally relaxed. At this rate, after he leaves the Star Source world, there shouldn't be many problems left for Wang Kai and the others. He ate 2 buns to restore his energy and bought a small straw hat for Wang Kai in the Star Source Mall as a reward, placing it on its head. After all, Wang Kai was the team leader he recommended, so he needed something different from the other skeletons to show his leadership authority. Although Shen Xingyan didn't know if his idea would work among the skeletons, he was happy to think this way, managing the little skeletons with human thoughts. Shen Xingyan saw that the Star Source was already counting down and reminding him. After giving Wang Kai the instructions to leave, he clicked, log off, and returned to the real world. As soon as he returned, Shen Xingyan's stomach started to protest loudly. He checked the stamina on his Star Source card, which had dropped to 6 points. In a few hours, it would reach the limit of weakness. He quickly went into the kitchen to prepare some food to fill his stomach. When he first returned to the real world, he was in a hurry after cooking for his sister and thinking about wheat field maintenance, so he forgot to eat himself. Now he felt dizzy from hunger. He ate a little to ease the hunger, and the feeling gradually disappeared. Despite feeling tired, Shen Xingyan was making breakfast for himself and his sister. Suddenly, his sister's door opened. Shen Xingyan rubbed her eyes and said sleepily, "Brother, you're finally out." Focused on cooking, Shen Xingyan was startled when he heard a noise behind him. In this area near the outer boundary, danger could happen at any time. If there was an unfamiliar sound nearby, the first rule was to hide and wait for help. His parents had even dug a hidden cellar at home for emergencies like this. Startled, Shen Xingyan turned around and saw it was his sister. He relaxed and said, "You woke up? Did I wake you up while cooking?" "No, I didn't sleep much. I was just waiting for you." "Here, this is for you," Shen Xingyan said, handing him a card. "What is this?" Shen Xingyan instinctively took it. When he saw the familiar Star Source symbol on the card, he suddenly remembered. It was a temporary reward card, costing 100 copper coins to make, used for storing temporary Star Source coins. Earlier, when he won a prize in a school competition, he usually exchanged the 100 copper coins for supplies. He was unfamiliar with this card. Shen Xingyan explained, "I got first place in a school competition today. This is your reward." It has 2,000 copper coins inside. When he reached this point, Shen Xingyan's originally sleepy face unconsciously showed a proud smile, and he softly sighed. My sister can also earn money to support the family now. Shen Xingyan looked at his sister's expression and felt very touched. He gently rubbed her head and said softly, yes, our little sister has grown up. Then he patted her shoulder to encourage her. Since his sister was already awake, Shen Xingyan decided to finish eating before going back to sleep. In a short while, the meal was ready. The brother and sister, in this peaceful night, enjoyed a breakfast full of hope and happiness. After eating, both of them were too sleepy to stay awake. They quickly tidied up, and each went back to their rooms to sleep deeply. The surprise from the Star Source world today made a gentle smile appear on Shen Xingyan's face. Until Shen Xingyan naturally woke up from his sleep and opened his eyes, he realized it was almost noon. He had slept so soundly that neither his biological clock nor his alarm clock had worked. But this full sleep not only completely restored his energy, but also allowed his body to rest as much as possible. The comfortable feeling made him reluctant to get up. This is common for most professionals. With the existence of the Star Source world, even the worst profession doesn't need to worry about basic survival. As long as they complete their work in the Wishing Star world, they can live without worries. Most life professionals don't need to fight, so they don't train in the real world. Combat professionals improve more significantly in the Star Source world, which leads them not to waste energy on the real world. Even if they have free time, they only use it to rest and recover. But Shen Xingyan, as an idealistic farmer, aims to go out and fight disasters. How could he allow himself to fall behind? After forcing himself to get up, Shen Xingyan began a day of training. Whether it was because his body had fully rested or because his training had accumulated enough to cause a change, he felt a noticeable difference after today's workout. He quickly took out his Star Source card to check his real-world attributes. He saw that the previous 11 points in Constitution now showed a clear 12. Indeed, persistent training in the real world is effective. Although it gets harder as I go further, there is still hope. Looking at the hard-earned attribute points, Shen Xingyan's smile couldn't be hidden on his face. In about a week, he had gained 2 attribute points through real-world training. These 2 points in the real world are roughly equivalent to 20 gold coins and 2 attribute points in the Star Source world. Considering this, Shen Xingyan's training in reality is worth much more than the crops harvested in the planting space. However, he knew that this isn't a fair comparison. One is long-term benefit, and the other is daily accumulated gains. They can't be directly compared. His 2 powerful skills mean he will grow faster over time, but the improvement from real-world training slows down as he progresses. The future growth from skills far surpasses that from physical training. Thanks to the little skeleton helping with farming, Shen Xingyan has the energy and time to train in reality. Other farmers or workers wouldn't even do light exercise, let alone intense training. Shen Xingyan calmed his excited mind, ate some food, then took out his Star Source card and entered the Star Source world. Inside the professional space, Wang Kai was busy working on the farm. He also kept checking on the other skeletons' work. If any of them worked outside the designated area or made mistakes, he would go and correct them, perfectly following Shen Xingyan's orders. Wang Kai looked like a manager with a straw hat on his head as a symbol of his role. When Shen Xingyan returned to the professional space, he saw Wang Kai and the others working. He felt relaxed. Knowing his little helpers were always working for him made him feel at ease. He didn't have to worry about the wheat field being unmanaged or suffering from poor quality after he left. Feeling this way, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but think, this must be why the bosses before the energy explosion liked to run companies. It feels pretty good. They might complain or slack off, but the little skeletons wouldn't. They only follow their instructions tirelessly, making them the perfect employees. However, their obvious weakness is that they cannot speak or communicate with themselves. This makes me, who stays here for a day, start to talk to myself more often. Shen Xingyan cleared his distracted thoughts and looked at the changed wheat seedlings. He nodded slightly. The work of the little skeletons is quite impressive. The current growth of the wheat looks very promising. At this moment, his talent skill's cooldown time was also finished. Shen Xingyan didn't delay and activated his talent skill quietly, softly singing. During this singing, his 7th little skeleton, after breaking through the ground, successfully joined Shen Xingyan's work team. Fortunately, the little skeletons have no thoughts of their own. If they knew they were summoned just to do hard labor, I wonder if they would choose to hide underground? As usual, Shen Xingyan handed this little skeleton to Wankai for training, while he led the other little skeletons to work in the fields. Soon, 8 skilled workers appeared in the wheat field. 8 workers were enough to handle 4 acres of land, with about 2 workers per acre. Since the professional skill still had some time left, Shen Xingyan helped the little skeletons take care of the current maintenance work in the wheat field. When the cooldown of his professional skill was over, he used it again, experiencing the scene of one finger drops, all things grow. Next, the maintenance prompt from Xingyuan, which had been slow and half a day apart, started to become more urgent. Shen Xingyan said he was used to this situation. Although he couldn't stay calm, he remained steady like an old dog, calmly fighting alongside the little skeletons. Although Shen Xingyan is a high-level worker, theoretically, his workload should be much larger. But in reality, due to physical limitations and mental fatigue, he is only slightly better than the little skeletons without stamina restrictions. It's like the story of the tortoise and the hare. As the saying goes, 2 fists are hard to fight 4 hands. Our team, just in terms of numbers, easily surpasses many high-level farmers. And in terms of efficiency, it has already reached a level that many top professionals find difficult to match. Today, with the addition of Shen Xingyan and the new skeleton, the efficiency of maintaining the 4 acres of land has started to improve rapidly. The wheat seedlings are also gradually transforming into their final form. For days have passed slowly. On the 11th day after Shen Xingyan's awakening, we celebrated another day full of harvest joy. During these 4 days, Shen Xingyan did not leave the work of maintaining the wheat fields entirely to the skeletons as he did last time. Instead, he led the skeletons to work together for 12 hours each day before leaving. Although the number of skeletons increased over time and they could handle the frequent maintenance tasks after developing their skills, Shen Xingyan wanted to be more careful. He aimed to see if he could increase the wheat yield per square meter. If he succeeded, there might be new rewards. Most of Shen Xingyan's energy during these 4 days was focused on planting wheat. However, he also kept up with physical training in real life. Since returning from the Star Realm, he spent almost all his free time exercising, aside from eating and sleeping. As expected, his physical attributes did not change. Improving these attributes becomes harder over time. If he could increase 1 attribute point after just a few days of training, this world would be a peaceful place without disasters, just as he imagined. Because his home training conditions are limited, he can only improve his physical qualities through external exercises, while other attributes require professional equipment. But now is not the time. To improve other physical attributes, he must wait until after this harvest, then go out quietly to rent a training room at the school for practice. The second harvest is approaching. Although Shen Xingyan is a bit excited, he is not as impatient as he was the first time. He checks the professional space on time. Seeing the larger wheat field than before, he feels a mix of anticipation and joy, despite having prepared himself mentally. While waiting for the harvest, Shen Xingyan casually checks his current attributes. He notices that as his physical condition improves in real life, his physique in the Star Realm also increases, reaching 13 points. Recently, I haven't spent much money. With the 2 silver coins my sister rewarded me last time, my total money remains in the double digits. I believe that after this harvest, my money will increase significantly. As for my other attributes, they haven't changed at all. That's normal, so I didn't pay much attention. I just took a good look at my 2 powerful skills. Now that the cooldown for my profession skill is finished, the attribute panel shows that I can use it. I also checked the crop, which still hasn't shown any signs of maturity. An idea suddenly came to mind. What would happen if I used my profession skill on the wheat field now? Once this idea appeared, it quickly took root in my mind and started to grow uncontrollably. My originally hopeful expression also shone with a strange light. If a normal profession skill increases growth speed, using it now might be a waste. But my skill actually increases the growth progress, which is different from just speeding up time. It's not exactly speeding up time. It's more like a special effect on the crops. Its connection to time isn't very strong. If I succeed, could I get wheat yields far beyond the normal amount? If that's true, breaking the record in the Star Source world would be easy. I kept thinking, if my skill only speeds up growth, there's a chance I might fail. Because once crops reach maturity, they stop growing automatically. Increasing growth speed then is like multiplying any number by 0, resulting in nothing. But my skill adds to the growth progress like addition, giving a percentage increase no matter what. Understanding this made me feel more confident. The idea kept spreading wildly in my mind. Looking at the wheat field about to mature, I hesitated for a moment, but then made up my mind to try. Even if I fail in the end, I'll only lose a day of using my skill. If successful, the reward could be quite generous. Just think about the bonus Star Source World gave him after he broke the record last time. He believed this attempt was worth trying. Once he made up his mind, Shen Xingyan no longer hesitated. He suddenly stood up, swapped his sickle for a new staff, and aimed at the 4 acres of wheat in front of him. He silently recited the spell to activate his skill. At this moment, Star Source seemed to sense Shen Xingyan's plan. A warning suddenly sounded in his ear. Beep detected you are using your skill on crops that are about to mature. The skill may fail. Do you want to continue? With this prompt, Shen Xingyan's casting action paused for a moment. The arrow is on the string. I have to shoot. Continue. The warning made Shen Xingyan feel uncertain. He thought that perhaps some experienced people had tried similar actions before, but he wasn't sure if their skills were the same as his. But he couldn't wait any longer. He responded to the prompt and clicked confirm. After confirming, his casting resumed. His whole body's energy surged through the new staff, causing it to tilt wildly. As he cast the skill, the wheat field, which had been quietly waiting to mature, suddenly started to rustle loudly, as if affected by the skill. Shen Xingyan watched this reaction carefully. He silently thought, "It's working. Congratulations. You successfully used your skill. Farmer Experience 1. At the same time, the Star Source prompt sounded again, and the wheat field's shaking grew even more intense. The wheat that had stopped growing suddenly began to swell rapidly. Shen Xingyan's heart pounded with excitement as he watched. As he expected, the shape of the wheat ears indicated that this harvest would surpass his previous record. He clenched his fist in joy, showing his happiness. But Shen Xingyan hadn't been happy for long. The swollen wheat ears suddenly shrank back in an instant, and the entire wheat field returned to its calm state, just as it was before. This change left Shen Xingyan, who had just been celebrating, feeling stunned. It was a real surprise that caught him off guard. What's going on? Is my idea not working? But the success signals from Xingyuan have already appeared. What exactly is happening? Shen Xingyan couldn't help but ask himself repeatedly, staring blankly at the scene before him, filled with many thoughts. At this moment, a harvest indicator appeared above the wheat field, showing that the wheat was fully ripe and ready to be harvested. The timing of this indicator was very close to Shen Xingyan's estimated harvest time. While lost in thought, Shen Xingyan saw the indicator and let out a sigh of relief, accepting the result with some resignation. He hadn't expected to fail in the end. He admitted that there was some gamble involved in this attempt, but he didn't think the chance of success was so high that he could lose. It seemed luck in gambling couldn't be trusted easily. Shen Xingyan warned himself silently. However, he also understood why gamblers can become addicted. The thrill of the moment just now really did excite him. Although the experiment failed, Shen Xingyan quickly adjusted himself. After all, the loss was only a day's worth of skill use, which he could still bear. It's time to harvest. Everyone grab your sickles. Let's get to work. Shen Xingyan loudly told Wang Kai and the others. He then handed over the rest of the tasks, like assigning work to the other skeletons, and focused on entering the wheat field to start harvesting wildly, as if he wanted to vent all his frustration on this harvest. Wang Kai followed his master's instructions, commanding all the small skeletons to use their sickles to harvest the wheat and gather it in one place, just like last time, waiting for Shen Xingyan to collect it. 11 workers were harvesting wheat in the field. Their efficiency was not as fast as during the first harvest, but since the area was larger, it took more time. Shen Xingyan didn't mind this at all. As more small skeletons joined in the future, the harvesting time would naturally get shorter. If they could keep harvesting like this, he would be very happy. Shen Xingyan was harvesting while weighing the wheat stalks. He silently nodded to himself, acknowledging that although his experiment had failed and the wheat hadn't grown as ideally as he hoped, this harvest was actually larger than the last one. It might even break the record in the Star Source world. With this hope in mind, Shen Xingyan felt more motivated to continue harvesting. Plus, with Wang Kai and the other skeletons becoming more skilled, they finished harvesting the 4 acres of wheat very quickly. If another farmer or worker had this much land, it might take a whole day to finish, but in Shen Xingyan's space, it was quite easy. After he finished harvesting the last bundle of wheat, he didn't rush to gather the piles of wheat the little skeletons had collected. Instead, he stood there nervously, waiting for the Star Source World's prompt. Thanks to his previous experience, Shen Xingyan knew what to expect next. He didn't need to plan his harvest carefully. The world would give him the right guidance. In just a few seconds, the Star Source's notification sounded as he had expected. Congratulations! You have planted 2,400 square meters of wheat, with a harvest of 8,200 kilograms, earning 820 experience points in the farmer profession. Hearing this, Shen Xingyan's initial nervousness eased completely. His tense expression turned into joy. The 8,200 kilograms of wheat was a big increase, about 250 kilograms more per acre than last time. He had broken the record. Just as he guessed, even though his previous experiment failed, he still managed to set a new record. This was a good result. A smile grew wider on Shen Xingyan's face, eventually turning into a big laugh. Now, he was just waiting to see what kind of reward the Star Source World would give him. Star Source also seemed to sense Shen Xingyan's thoughts and did not make him wait long. A notification sound appeared beside his ear. Congratulations! You have broken your previous record of 1,800 kilograms of wheat per acre and achieved a new high of 2,050 kilograms. As a reward, you receive planting privileges 1. You can plant crops of 1 level higher, and your cultivated land area increases by 600 square meters. Star Source will announce this across the region. Would you like to make this information public? Shen Xingyan looked at the reward for the planting privilege, feeling a bit confused. Could such a reward really exist? In his previous understanding of farmers' professions, Star Source's planting levels were very strict. Levels 1 to 9 could only plant first-level crops. Levels 10 to 19 could plant first and second-level crops, and so on. The higher the crop level, the more experience and income you gained upon harvest. With his current level, even with powerful skills, he could only plant crops of his level or lower. No item could break this rule. But now, Star Source offers a planting privilege 1, which actively breaks this rule. This means he can plant higher-level crops at a low level, something he had never heard of in nearly 100 years. Thinking of this, Shen Xingyan's mind started to race. With this privilege, his profession level and money income would increase greatly. And as his profession level rises, the effect of this privilege will become even greater. Imagine when he reaches level 90. He could plant legendary spiritual seeds. He couldn't even imagine how crazy the results would be then. Currently, only 2 elders in the large base have the ability to plant beginner spiritual seeds. It is also said that reaching level 50 requires an exponential increase in experience points. If those 2 elders hadn't found special seeds outside the zone that boost experience, the concept of spiritual seeds might not even be known in the base today. The more Shen Xingyan thought about it, the more excited he became. This hopeful future made his eyes shine brightly, so intensely that even the little skeletons around him seemed to melt from the heat. After being stunned for a long time, he finally calmed his mind. Although the future looked bright, he needed to focus on the present. He was now capable of planting second-level crops as a professional. May I ask if the information is public? The prompt sound from Xingyuan appeared again beside Shen Xingyan, urging him to make a quick decision. When Shen Xingyan regained his senses, he naturally chose no. If this privilege were known to outsiders, especially those seniors who had reached a certain level but still hadn't upgraded, it could bring him trouble. This wasn't just a warning. The temptation was simply too great. Who could refuse an opportunity to improve both experience and wealth? As Shen Xingyan made his choice, a few days later, the Xingyuan space once again sounded a series of alert tones. A professional, Mr. Someone, broke the previous wheat yield record of 1,800 kilograms per mu, achieving 2,050 kilograms. As a reward, planting privileges are increased by 1. The level of crops that can be planted is raised by 1, and the cultivated land area is increased by 600 square meters. This is announced throughout the entire zone. The announcement echoed 3 times and spread across the entire Xingyuan world. The appearance of this announcement stunned all the professionals working in Xingyuan. The world seemed to pause, then erupted into lively discussions. What's going on? Another record for wheat? This isn't stopping. It's only been a few days, and the reward is quite impressive. It's enough to make people jealous, not only the many farmers among the professionals, but even others with basic knowledge of farming could tell that this reward was special. Wow, which shameless old guy is exploiting Xingyuan's resources again? The reward is too tempting. I have to get some level 1 seeds too. I've never heard of planting privileges in Xingyuan before. I need to clear a plot of land and plant wheat right away. These senior farmers couldn't help but complain and started acting. Their tone was full of envy. How is this possible? Wheat yields keep breaking records. Who is behind this? Have they found a loophole in Xingyuan? Otherwise, such high yields are impossible. It must be cheating. If I knew who these people are, that would be great. Some people are watching the adventurer mentioned in the announcement with a sneaky look in their eyes, giving off a chilling feeling that makes one feel uneasy just by looking at them. After the announcement from the Star Source world ended, the 4 acres of land in Shen Xingyan's professional space began to change. The boundaries of his land started to expand, and the edges of his professional space also stretched outward a little. Shen Xingyan looked at this without showing any surprise. After breaking the record last time, Star Source gave him 1,800 square meters of land, which was much larger than this time's 600 square meters. What made him happy was that, although Star Source only gave him 1 acre of land, they were very kind and completely renovated all of his land, saving him the time to do it himself. Seeing the increasingly wide fields in front of him, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but squint and smile. The increase in land is permanent, meaning his future harvests and experience points will also improve accordingly. How could he not be happy? Although 1 acre of land seems small compared to the planting privileges, if you think about it alone, 1 acre is worth 100 gold coins. That's enough to match the money he would earn from planting crops for a long time. For them, this is already a very powerful reward. Feeling happy, Shen Xingyan began his harvest. He walked over to the small skeletons that had piled up the wheat into a mountain, and with a thought, the huge wheat pile instantly disappeared into his professional space and appeared in his backpack. Opening his backpack, Shen Xingyan used the built-in function of his Star Source backpack to separate the wheat grains from the stalks. Looking at the number 8,200 displayed in the slot where the wheat grains were stored, he smiled contentedly. Ask yourself, which farmer professionist could harvest wheat twice in just 10 days, with a total yield reaching 10,000 kilograms? This amount of harvest could bring significant economic benefits, though perhaps not impressive to high-level farmers. But remember, Shen Xingyan is just a rookie who just changed his profession a little over 10 days ago. Achieving such results is already extraordinary. Shen Xingyan happily checked the attributes of the wheat. Item: wheat, excellent. Value: 10 copper coins. Quantity: 8,200. Attribute: a good material for making food. Excellent. How can it be excellent? The suffix excellent appeared on the wheat's name, and its value per kilogram reached an astonishing 10 copper coins. This made Shen Xingyan, who wasn't mentally prepared, open his eyes wide in disbelief. Excellent? That's a quality 2 levels above good. The concept of excellent echoed in Shen Xingyan's mind. He still remembered that the last time he harvested wheat, its quality was only at the good level. At that time, he was tending a 1-acre field together with many skeletons. The skeletons continued to carefully care for the farmland even after he left, which led to the wheat reaching the good quality. He accepted this easily. But this time, the farmland was larger, and the number of skeletons hadn't yet grown enough due to time constraints. If he hadn't dedicated all his focus to the Star Source mission these past few days, he might have missed breaking records altogether. Given this situation, he thought it was already very good that the wheat maintained good quality. He didn't even dare to hope it could jump 2 levels to become excellent. But now, the reality was right in front of him, and he couldn't ignore it. Despite feeling happy about this achievement, Shen Xingyan's brow furrowed tightly. His mind began to race, trying to recall everything about the planting process over the past few days to understand the reason behind this. Because if he could find the cause, it would be a major breakthrough for improving crop quality in the future, greatly increasing his harvest. Other farmers and adventurers mostly relied on luck to get high-quality crops. The Star Source world also has a similar random mechanism, but its chances are spread across the entire world, making the probability much lower. However, Shen Xingyan had a feeling that this time, the improvement in wheat quality wasn't just due to luck, but because of a real, objective reason. He carefully analyzed the planting process step by step, finally focusing on his skill bar, where a certain profession skill had entered a cooldown state. This time, the only difference in planting was that I used my professional skills to experiment with the wheat field just before harvest. At that time, the Star Source world had already indicated that using skills would be successful. However, in the end, the wheat expanded and then shrank back, leading me to subconsciously think the experiment failed. But looking at the current results, breaking records and the wheat quality jumping 2 levels, it clearly shows that the experiment was not only successful, but also a great success. This conclusion kept lingering in Shen Xingyan's mind. He kept analyzing it repeatedly and finally became sure that the outstanding wheat and the record-breaking achievement were closely related to the use of his professional skills just now. After confirming the success of the experiment, Shen Xingyan's face filled with joy. This rediscovery made him feel like a bright light had appeared after darkness. At the same time, the current results made him feel as if he had found a hidden flaw in the Star Source world, and he was so excited he jumped up. Looking at his skill in the attribute panel, he felt it was mysterious and adorable even more. After the excitement, Shen Xingyan gradually calmed down. Then he checked the wheat stalks in his backpack. Item: wheat stalks, excellent. Value: 2 copper coins. Quantity: 3,600 attributes. A good basic material. With this, even wheat stalks became excellent, and their value doubled, reaching 2 copper coins per kilogram. After reviewing the wheat stalks' attributes, Shen Xingyan was satisfied. He then sold all the wheat and wheat stalks to the Star Source market, earning 89,200 copper coins. Seeing so much copper coins in his account made Shen Xingyan very happy. He thought to himself, my money-making speed is already comparable to most combat professionals. Feeling pleased, Shen Xingyan looked at his experience points, which had already far exceeded the current stage, 912,200. He excitedly rubbed his hands and thought, with so much experience, I should be able to level up several times. At the same time, the different worlds of the Star Source gradually reveal their hidden sides to professionals like Shen Xingyan. For example, Shen Xingyan's farming profession normally allows him to plant only basic crops within a 1-acre area, from level 1 to level 9. Only after reaching level 10 can he unlock the land expansion feature, which allows him to grow higher-level crops and escape the inefficiency of planting basic crops. This also introduces new random tasks and surprise rewards. According to the knowledge taught by the school, after reaching level 10, each subsequent level up grants more attribute points, which naturally increases strength and creates a positive cycle. The various aspects of the Star Source world tempt professionals to level up, but Shen Xingyan, by breaking records, has already enjoyed the advanced treatment of the Star Source world. His special status surpasses normal limits, reaching a level others can only dream of. He owns a vast 3,000 square meter land at the beginner stage, and now has the privilege to grow higher-level crops, something unique in the Star Source world. From the records, no one else seems to enjoy the same treatment as him. Shen Xingyan looked at the experience bar on his attribute panel, where a flashing upgrade arrow appeared. Its shimmering light made him feel eager and almost desperate to eliminate it quickly. He took a deep breath, gently moved his body, and warmed up for the upcoming attribute boost. Although he knew this was just a mental preparation with no real impact on what was to come, he still felt it was necessary. For now, he chose not to act, as this activity helped stabilize his emotions. Once his mood was steady, Shen Xingyan decisively clicked the upgrade arrow with his mind, continuing to do so repeatedly. Congratulations! Your profession level has increased to level 3. You receive 1 to all attributes, 2 free attribute points, and a 1% reduction in skill cooldown time. Keep up the good work and continue to improve. Congratulations! Your profession level has increased to level 4. You receive 1 to all attributes, 2 free attribute points, and a 1% reduction in skill cooldown time. Keep up the good work and continue to improve. Congratulations! Your profession level has increased to level 5. You receive 1 to all attributes, 2 free attribute points, and a 1% reduction in skill cooldown time. Keep up the good work and continue to improve. After a burst of rapid clicking by Shen Xingyan, 3 prompts from the system appeared simultaneously. Shen Xingyan instantly leveled up 3 times, and the profession level in the world of Xingyuan reached level 5. Over 10 days, Shen Xingyan upgraded a basic farmer profession to level 5. If others knew about this, it would surely cause a big stir. Leveling up a farmer profession is notoriously difficult because it takes a long time, and gaining experience depends on many factors. There's a risk of experience being halved if not careful. That's why the farmer profession is considered one of the weakest life skills. However, Shen Xingyan managed to raise this life skill to such a high level in such a short time, which was as shocking as defeating a disaster-level monster with bare hands. The 3 increases in physical attributes, although experienced only in the world of Xingyuan and not deeply felt, still made Shen Xingyan feel a pleasant sense of comfort in his body and mind. After feeling this comfort, Shen Xingyan quickly checked his new attribute panel. Name: Spark Igniting the Sky, Shen Xingyan. ID: 118120431. 9527. Profession: Farmer Skill 1. Consumes a certain amount of energy points to increase the growth progress of crops within a specified area by 10%. The larger the area, the more energy points are consumed. Can be used every 10 hours, with a 24-hour cooldown, -4%. Level: 5 Experience, 12 out of 500 Strength, 14 points Agility, 14 points Constitution, 16 points Spirit, 14 points free attribute points, 6 health, 160 160th energy, 20 stamina, 16 16th physical attack, 14 magic attack, 14 defense, 16 speed, 14 talent. Summon skeleton. Summon a skeleton monster with all attributes at 1 for battle, cooldown 24 hours. Money: 0 gold, 99 silver, 850 copper. After leveling up, all attributes returned to full. In the attribute panel, Shen Xingyan's overall stats increased by 3 points each, which is more than a quarter of his original attributes. This boost was the source of his recent feeling of satisfaction. Including the 6 free attribute points, Shen Xingyan gained a total of 18 attribute points from this upgrade. Although these points might seem small to high-level professionals, for beginners, they are like doubling their strength. The increase is significant. 10 days to reach level 5. This speed is comparable to top-tier fighters of the same age, Shen Xingyan thought happily, unable to hide his excitement. He pulled up the skeletons, including Wang Kai, and started jumping around. Fortunately, Shen Xingyan was careful to consider the skeleton's physical stats while excited, so he didn't jump too wildly. Otherwise, he might have broken some of their tiny bones. After the excitement, Shen Xingyan looked at his money, less than 100 silver coins, and felt a bit disappointed. He had so many attributes, but not enough money to transfer them into the real world, which was a bit unfortunate. But he quickly calmed down, realizing that over time, this situation would improve. With planting privileges and his 2 powerful skills, his earning speed would only get faster. Converting attributes into real-world value was just a matter of time. If Shen Xingyan's current thoughts were known to other professionals, they would definitely be furious. After all, they work hard in their jobs, and in 10 days, they have only earned a few dozen silver coins at most. But Shen Xingyan has already earned nearly 100 silver coins, yet he is still not satisfied, and is even thinking about extracting attributes into the real world. Come on, you're just a newcomer who has only awakened his profession for 10 days. Your current success is already impressive enough. Thinking so much more? That's really not respectful to us. As Shen Xingyan's crazy idea upset the other professionals, he opened the Star Source shop and started choosing seeds to plant next. Compared to level 1 seeds, level 2 seeds offer many more options, such as corn, lettuce, bok choy, potatoes, and eggplants. Their productivity in terms of growth time is roughly the same, with the main difference being how long they take to grow. This is an important factor Shen Xingyan considered when choosing seeds. He carefully analyzed the economic benefits of each seed type, and, based on his own situation, determined which crop would give the best value for planting. Other farmers didn't need to worry about this because they could plant whatever they wanted and the results wouldn't differ much. After all, their skills only increase the growth speed of crops. Whether they mature early or late doesn't matter much. He compared each option and eliminated crops like lettuce, bok choy, and eggplants that could be grown in 2 or 3 days. These didn't suit his skills and wouldn't break any records, so he didn't consider them further. In the end, Shen Xingyan hesitated between 2 seeds, corn and potatoes. Both crops take the same time to grow, but potatoes are less valuable in terms of market price. Naturally, he wanted to choose corn. However, considering the height of his little skeletons, mature corn would be much taller than them, making work difficult and possibly preventing proper maintenance, which could lead to delays or incomplete tasks, something he wanted to avoid. Therefore, Shen Xingyan decided not to overthink it and chose to plant potatoes this time. After all, the little skeletons are the main force in planting. They are the primary workers, and everything should revolve around them. This way, the crops will grow better. On the surface, Shen Xingyan gave up higher profits, but in reality, he chose the option that best suited his situation. After carefully studying, Shen Xingyan learned that potatoes take 20 days to grow, which is twice as long as the 10 days for first-level wheat seeds. Although the growth time is longer, their economic value and the experience gained are much higher. Normally, wheat yields about 500 kilograms per acre, worth 1,000 copper coins, and gives 50 experience points. Potatoes, on the other hand, can produce about 3,000 kilograms per acre, worth 9,000 copper coins, and provide 600 experience points, far surpassing wheat in all aspects. This is a major reason why farmers and profession players want to level up their skills. For the same effort, the harvest can be so much better, making higher-level seeds very tempting. After choosing the seed type, Shen Xingyan was about to click to buy enough seeds for 5 acres. But then he suddenly remembered the record-breaking achievement in the Star Source world and the reward that came with it. He paused his purchase. Should I leave 1 acre to keep planting wheat? Maybe I can break my record again. This idea suddenly appeared in Shen Xingyan's mind. Having broken the wheat harvest record twice, especially the second time when he used his profession skill to do so, gave him a strange confidence. The rewards from the Star Source world were also very valuable. Just the land itself greatly increased his overall strength. Otherwise, as a farmer, even with powerful skills, it would be impossible to reach his current level so quickly, almost matching battle professionals. After weighing the pros and cons, Shen Xingyan made up his mind. He would continue planting wheat. The worst case would be a decrease in experience points and harvest for that acre, but for him now, that was completely acceptable. If this time breaks the record again, the reward will be much greater than just experience points and money. After weighing the options, Shen Xingyan no longer hesitated. He quickly selected the potato seeds needed to plant 4 acres and the wheat seeds for 1 acre. Thanks to the 30% discount on seed purchases, he paid 1,470 copper coins swiftly. For Shen Xingyan, who is now a big landlord, this amount of money is no longer a concern. He believes that spending a little now will lead to better harvests later, so this small expense is very worthwhile. Following his plan, Shen Xingyan divided the 5 acres of land. He kept the central 1-acre plot for wheat and used the surrounding land to plant new potato seeds. To ensure the success of the wheat record experiment, he gave special instructions to Wang Kai. Prioritize wheat over potatoes. If both maintenance alerts appear at the same time, handle the wheat first and delay the potato work. After giving these orders, he didn't waste any more time. He directed Wang Kai and the small skeletons to start planting. Planting 5 acres is no small task. Shen Xingyan's skeletons numbered 10, and they worked tirelessly without pause, which took quite a bit of time. During the process, after planting the wheat first, maintenance alerts for the wheat began to appear gradually while planting the potatoes. Shen Xingyan had to assign some skeletons to handle these issues, which slowed down the planting efficiency a bit. Fortunately, his profession skill was in cooldown and couldn't be used, so the maintenance work wasn't too intense and remained manageable, not affecting the planting too much. While planting, Shen Xingyan's talent skill finished cooling down. He quickly summoned the 11th small skeleton to help. With the new worker, planting became a bit faster. In the end, with 12 workers, it took nearly 2 hours to complete planting all the potatoes. After all the busy work, Shen Xingyan finally stopped to rest. Standing at the edge of the field, he looked at the barren land after planting and suddenly felt a bit uncomfortable, as if he was not yet used to the sight. After each planting, his professional skills automatically improved the crops quickly. It was impossible for the soil to still look so clear and untouched. Earlier, to break the wheat record, he used a special ability in advance. It is still cooling down now, so he can only wait quietly. The prompt on the wheat field appeared very slowly. With the current efficiency of the little skeletons, they could handle it easily. Seeing this, Shen Xingyan stopped worrying. Harvesting wheat and planting seeds had cost him a lot of stamina. His stamina was almost at the warning level. He walked to the edge of the field and sat down to rest and recover. Only then did he have time to think about how to distribute his free attribute points. Shen Xingyan opened his attribute panel. He picked up 2 buns, eating one to restore stamina while looking at the information on the panel. After admiring the increased attributes, he focused on the free attribute points section. There were 6 free points shown. He started to think. When he leveled up to 2, he added the attribute points to his original energy, because the increase in land area made his original energy insufficient. He couldn't cover 4 acres at once, which caused resource waste. Based on his calculations, each acre needs about 5 original energy points. Now, with 5 acres, he needed 25 points. Originally, he had 20 points, which was just enough, but now it's not enough again. Normally, he would add all 5 free points to his original energy to handle this. But he hesitated. That's 5 points. If he added them to any physical attribute, he could extract them later, and they would be as valuable as years of hard training in the real world. Now, wasting those points on original energy felt like a loss. How could he make such a decision easily? However, Shen Xingyan understood that adding points to original energy was just a matter of time. It was a long-term plan. Although he will gain more energy with each level up after reaching level 10, in the foreseeable future, his crops are more likely to break the world record for energy use. Take this potato crop, for example. It takes 20 days to grow. Can a strong farmer or worker stay in the source world for the entire growth period? Shen Xingyan thinks not. Few people can stay for 10 days straight, or else he wouldn't have broken the wheat record. But his little skeleton can, and it does so without rest. No one else has that condition. So, he feels very confident about breaking the potato record this time. Once, he even wanted to plant a different crop on each acre to see if he could break more records. But he didn't do it. The current situation is stable, and trying new things while steadily improving is okay. But experimenting with many crops at once might seem risky. Based on the rewards for breaking records twice, the source world has given him more land. In the future, the rewards will probably include more land again. Since natural energy points won't be enough, he will have to rely on free attribute points to improve. Thinking of this, Shen Xingyan feels a bit helpless. He has a feeling that his future free points will mostly be used to increase energy, while other attributes will only grow naturally. Even if he doesn't want to, he has no choice. For the big picture, he has to reluctantly add 5 attribute points to energy. My poor free attribute points. Shen Xingyan mourns for his sacrificed free points. Right now, his energy has increased from 20 to 25. He still has 1 point left, but chooses not to assign it yet. Let it stay there a little longer. It feels better that way, even though it will definitely be added to energy later. After finishing the attribute point distribution, Shen Xingyan feels more energized. He looks up at the empty fields. Under Wang Cai's command, the little skeletons are working in order. His earlier frustration has eased, replaced by a sense of satisfaction. Wang Cai, wearing a straw hat in the field, really looks like a team leader. Sometimes he bends down to work, sometimes he looks up at the other little skeletons, acting like a supervisor. Shen Xingyan finds this quite amusing. His first little skeleton is really capable. Unfortunately, it can't eat, or else with its work ethic, it would definitely deserve a chicken leg. Shen Xingyan thought with a smile. After resting and eating some buns, Shen Xingyan saw that his stamina had recovered to 12 points. He decided not to stay long at the work site and went to the fields to work together with Wang Cai and the other little skeletons. While working, he also started teaching the skeletons new ideas. Previously, to break his record more steadily, Shen Xingyan researched how to increase crop yields. He looked at various cases recorded in the base and found a common point among them: careful farming. Careful farming means doing daily maintenance tasks with more detailed work, following the standards set by the star source world. This method might not be very useful for other professions that rely on prompts, but Shen Xingyan thought it was worth trying. Since it's proven to help increase crop yields, it's worth a shot. The new seeds had just been planted, and Shen Xingyan felt it was time to put this idea into practice. During work, he tried to pass on what he learned to Wang Kai and the other skeletons, teaching them how to improve their work quality and gradually increase efficiency. However, Shen Xingyan overestimated the skeletons' understanding. After explaining, Wang Kai and the others didn't seem to understand his instructions. They continued their rough maintenance work just like before, no different from what Shen Xingyan had previously taught. Seeing that his training didn't go as well as he hoped, Shen Xingyan felt a bit helpless. But he didn't give up immediately. Instead, he placed his hopes on his trusted helper, Wang Kai. He carefully explained his ideas again, showing how to better water, weed, and pest control, and taught by example. As the skeleton leader, Wang Kai either understood or simply learned Shen Xingyan's actions. He worked much better than before, showing clear progress. Progress is a good thing. Take your time. This isn't something that can be done overnight. It seems that in the future, if we have new ideas, we'll still need Wang Sai's help. After understanding this, Shen Xingyan nodded in agreement and gave instructions to Wang Kai to teach others. Under Wang Sai's guidance, all the small skeletons began taking steps toward more detailed farming. If other professionals saw Shen Xingyan's actions now, they would think he was being too harsh. The small skeletons helping with farming was already impressive, and demanding more from them was quite tough on them. While Shen Xingyan was leisurely farming with the small skeletons, everyone's attention was now on wheat, due to the recent record-breaking increase in star source. At first, breaking a record might seem like a coincidence. After all, the world of Star Wish is full of lucky people. Every profession has a chance to get bonus rewards from Star Source when harvesting, similar to how combat professions get gear from monsters. The chance is small, but it exists. For farmers, who only harvest once every few days, the chance of getting a bonus is very rare compared to combat professions that harvest more often. So, when farmers do get a bonus, it's a big deal. There are many farmers in the world of Star Wish, but the daily bonus chances are limited, and no one can force it. They can only envy the lucky professional who gets the bonus. The first record-breaking harvest might have been seen as a coincidence or the result of a lucky person's super bonus, so people didn't think too much about it. The rewards for high-level professionals are also quite acceptable. However, after just 5 days, the second record-breaking harvest appeared, making everyone think more deeply, especially since the reward was the highly tempting planting privilege. This reward is very important for high-level farmers, making others envious. They never expected that breaking records would bring such large rewards. Before, some people had broken records, but their rewards were only simple items, with no special privileges.